Buckle up, boys. We've got the wild man, Bill Thompson, with us.
Third time on the podcast.
Is it my third? That was my second.
Is it the third time?
Yeah, the number 2 or number 3, and then North Dakota.
Now I feel like I've been on here too much.
Oh, yeah. North Dakota, the hostage story.
Yeah.
And then you were like our second one here, our second podcast.
I feel like it's been more than that.
I think
Is there a cough button on these things?
A what? A cough?
Like a way to cough or something?
Just pull it away from your face.
What do you mean a cough button?
No,
Some headphones have like a thing where you push it or there's on here, and then you can cough, and then it doesn't screw up.
We're not there yet.
Oh. Like even when I'd fly in the military in the airplanes, there'd be a cough button. To transmit, you'd push a button. Or to not transmit, you could push a button.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We've also got Thomas Clements with us, which you've been on a few of them.
Is it pronounced Clements?
Clementis.
Okay.
It's Clements.
That's what I always said, so I just thought
Yeah.
maybe I've been doing it wrong all along.
No, sometimes people like to drag out the other E, but
Put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
it's all the same.
Then we've got Drew with us. It's been a minute since we've done a potty.
It has been a while.
Since you and Drew have been on a potty?
Yeah.
I feel like it's weird calling it a potty. I'm just going to put that out there.
I think I just started calling that. I don't even know why.
Get your head out of the gutter.
We talked about doing this potty in a Chili's tonight.
Which I thought was genius.
Which, if you're watching this on YouTube and can leave us a comment, I would love to know people's thoughts on whether we should do some podcasts in a Chili's or just random places like that.
And if you guys do a Chili's one without me, like do it anywhere else. Don't do it in the Chili's without me.
So we're not allowed to do the Chili's without you.
No. It was
What
Drew and
about-
I's idea, and you shot it down.
I didn't shoot it down. I
Like
like
a
that
duck.
kind of stuff, but Drew went on a scouting mission, and
It was a little busy. It probably
some
would have
door
been
knocking?
a little bit awkward.
It's fine.
well,
I
we're-
love you
we're-
guys both, all three of you to death, but does it feel like we've been together for a month?
Yeah.
No.
It kind of feels like it's been a long time. Like, not in a bad way. Just it feel like I don't remember when this started.
Well, being at Corky's feels like it's a long time ago. So I'll give some background. We're in Texas right now, and we're down here for the TAC event, which y'all did this was the first booth that y'all did this year with TAC event?
Yes, as you heard the other night at dinner.
Huh?
First booth we've ever done at Attack. Never mind.
Anyways, we turkey hunted a couple days ago. Ended up turning into a hog hunt. Transitioned over to TAC the last couple days, and now we're in a hotel room.
Archer Country.
Yeah, archery country event, which was super cool, by the way.
Yeah, it's fun.
And now we're planning on getting back in the turkey hunting
Tomorrow morning
before we take off out of here. But we started off the trip with a Tim Kennedy workout.
It's haunted us since then.
Yeah.
Pretty bad idea.
Yeah, I'm hurting.
I do feel like we earned his respect, though.
We didn't quit.
For those, who'd be the best suited to kind of describe Tim and his accolades and stuff? For people that don't know, because for people that are listening that don't know who he is.
He's still in the military. I believe he was active duty for many years, and then he became National Guardsman. Or maybe he's active reserve. I can't remember. But anyways, part-time now, but he was a Special Forces sniper for, I think, at least 20 years plus. And also fought in the UFC and kind of went in and out of the military. And he was super successful in the UFC. I think he's like some 3rd or 4th degree black belt, or maybe even higher. Also black belt, and there's something else. He's got 2 black belts, I know that. But hosted a bunch of shows, New York Times bestseller. He did that hunting. Even before I knew him, he did that hunting Nazis or hunting Hitler show.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That was an awesome
Right,
show.
and Hard to Kill, right?
And the Hard to Kill. But the hunting Hitler one was so cool.
I never watched. I think I watched Hard to Kill a couple times. I never saw
watch the Hitler one, because there's all of these Germans, and a lot of people don't know this, but there are all these Germans who had money, who were Nazis, and when it looked like the war was going to be lost, like imminently lost, they went to Argentina.
Yeah. There's
Like,
still a
And there's
big colony
huge
there.
colonies of Germans that live up in the mountains, and they act like they're in Germany.
Are they
They're just
Nazis?
living up
Yeah.
the mountains? They were Nazis. I
Are they
doubt
still-
the children are.
Are they still?
Or maybe they are. Who knows? But the rumor was that Hitler was among that group. And then the person who killed himself was a stand-in. So Tim Kennedy went out there and did a Discovery Channel series I think it's called Hunting Hitler. I could get it wrong, but anyway, it was cool. It was what was more cool to me was just seeing all of the money and people and culture that they just grafted into the mountains of Argentina. Those people are just living up there like it's now this is we are here in Argentina, yeah, but we're going to talk like we're here in Germany.
I don't get it. Every accent is that you have is
It's spot
on.
It's impressive.
I don't know about all that. But yeah, we are here in Germany, and what's Argentina now? Yeah,
but he was
we were with the Führer, and it was not looking good, so we decided to leave. Yeah, so here we are, past the Sauerbraten.
he was an Army sniper though, right?
Army sniper and special forces, and yep.
This episode of the Sequin Podcast is brought to you by Hoist. Hoist is an IV level hydration beverage that hydrates you 110% better than water. We were introduced to the Hoist crew through the Realtree guys last summer, and we are extremely active in the summer, whether it's fishing, scouting, obviously in the fall and winter. We're hunting a lot, and it's now springtime, and I did 10 miles yesterday looking for a set of sheds that I never found. We're also in the middle of turkey season, and Hoist has been great in helping keeping us hydrated, keeping one or two of them in our packs. If y'all are interested in trying Hoist, go to drinkhoist.com and use code SEEK1, SEEKONE, for 20% off. Or on their website, check out the store locator, and you can find a retailer to pick one up in person around you. They actually just came out with a Hunter Orange bottle that's got the blaze orange on the bottom and the Realtree APX pattern at the top. Y'all go check it out. This portion of the Sequin Podcast is brought to you by Vortex. Vortex, guys, you have got to try the new Defender ST Red Dot on your turkey gun. It's got a large sight window so that you never lose sight of what you're looking at as you're looking down the barrel of your gun. And it's extremely durable. It's held up to everything that we've thrown at its way. And we are pretty rough on our equipment. The Defender ST is a must for your turkey adventures this spring. And the best part, you can get 10% off the all-new Defender ST Micro Red Dot using code SEEK10 at checkout at eurooptic.com. That's code SEEK10, SEEK10, at checkout at eurooptic.com. The Red Dots are a game changer for turkey hunting. They really allow you to hone in and focus on that turkey when he's in range. Y'all go check it out. You know, y'all met him in Vegas, right? Y'all like hung out in Vegas and stuff. So, like y'all had dinner. What all did y'all kind of do?
Just hung out with him for a few days. Had dinner with him and like the sheepdog response group that he runs, which is a bunch of badasses as well. Can I swear? Sorry, I won't swear. Well, I won't swear, but sorry. Bleep me if you have to. The sheepdog response stuff, and then other people that he kind of like keeps in his circle. He does like a yearly thing where he gets everyone together, and I was just kind of entering his orbit there. We've got mutual friends and mutual circles that we ran in while I was in the military, while he's in the military. Obviously, 20 years of sustained war, and as you know, we just kind of got together through a mutual friend, and then he invited us out to this dinner in Las Vegas, and Drew grounds me, keeps me sane. So I asked Drew to come with, and yeah, it was good.
It's a bunch of freedom-loving Americans.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of people from Sheepdog Response, but then it was like...
Oh, Brian Callen was there.
Yeah, just a bunch of other people that are involved in that
community
of keeping and regaining freedom in America in different avenues. So I think one of the cool things there's two really cool things he's doing right now. The Apogee School stuff, which is basically, he said it the other day, like the long-term goal is to abolish public schools.
Yeah,
or at least the way that they're set up right now.
Yeah, or the Department of Education, which is unconstitutional.
And then what's Allies? What's the Allies?
Save Our Allies.
Save Our Allies.
And then Independence Fund.
Yeah, so Save Our Allies basically, I think it started during the withdrawal of Afghanistan. Left a bunch of Afghan soldiers, interpreters and other soldiers
that were promised either to come back or go somewhere else. There was terms that they, worked with us under, and I guess I don't want to sound political, but the Biden administration basically didn't honor our deals that we made with these people, and
yeah. So Tim and then Chad Robichaux and Sarah Verardo
Yep.
Got together. They all are very connected, and at
Raised
the time,
a ton of money.
they raised a ton of money. The U.S. government, the Secretary of Defense, wasn't even letting the U.S. government go over there and rescue those people, but they let Tim and Chad basically charter private planes and helicopters and stuff and put a team together and go over and rescue. I think it was what was it?
13 or 17,000
people,
something like that. On that order of
and then
magnitude.
since then they've gone to Ukraine and other countries and
Israel.
I mean,
just
how
rescued people.
recent? Like
it's going on now.
he's still doing that
They're
now.
still
Yeah.
he just did it like a few weeks ago. But he also did it started a few years ago, and there's an Amazon Prime series about it that's really good. Just the thing that we don't realize is the problem we run into is we're going to need people like that in future conflicts. And if we don't honor our commitments in the current conflicts or the recent conflicts, then we have to go somewhere else and do the same thing for whatever reason, which I hope we don't. But if we do, they're going to look at us and say, we're not helping you.
Yeah.
We saw what happened over there. So it's important. It's just important to keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. But really cool. And he gets a lot of flack, Tim does, from the military community just because there's nobody that will give a veteran a harder time than another veteran for a variety of reasons. But my dealings with him and being with him, he's a super inspiring and motivating individual.
And an outspoken Christian too.
And an
So-
outspoken Christian, which is awesome. And it's another thing where, the last few years for me, I didn't think I'd run in, if you had told me a few years ago when I started Spartan Forge, if I'd be running into and dealing with and interacting with Christians at this level like this who are so outspoken, I wouldn't have thought it was the case. Like yourselves and Tim and other people who, you're not. There's a weird thing in the Bible where sometimes Jesus is like, don't tell anybody, or what's been done here, don't tell, or pray in secret, and then other times where he's actively telling people to go and say things or do things. You always wonder, what's the right posture? I find myself wondering that all the time, what is the right posture? And generally what I'll do is I'll just I'll close my eyes and ask, and I'll get a feeling or an answer, and then I'll roll with that because I don't think it's clear. There are many things that aren't clear in the Bible.
I think the Spirit is the one that tells you.
Yeah. But to get back to Tim and to kind of put a bow on that, it's super motivating. Speaks the truth whenever he can, and also he's not just, he does some of this, and everyone should, and if you have the opportunity, you should, but, here's the new pants I'm wearing or the new sunglasses or whatever, all of that's fine and dandy, and you got to earn a living. But most of the projects that he's engaged in are to help and grow and nurture the American experiment and the Word of God in other people. And that, to me, is the super inspiring portion.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other stuff should be done and can be done, and there's nothing against it. But what I'm saying is where you get the best conversation from him, or he's the most motivated or the most engaged, is when you're talking about those types of things.
He seems like a super genuine person.
Yeah.
Highly motivated, and just it's almost gravitating when you're around him that that motivation just is pouring into the people around him. And to me it's crazy to be that's my first time I guess being around someone who's, for lack of better words, just that dangerous, or just seeing that much, been involved in that much stuff. It's just I don't know, it's hard to sort of comprehend or understand what he has experienced in his life.
Yeah.
It's almost I don't even know really how to describe it, but we're sitting there and we just did this workout, and we're sitting there at breakfast, and he seems like a totally normal guy. We're having normal just kind of bro conversations with each other. All of us are sitting there doing that, and it's just it's like a normal guy. For the most part, I don't know, it's hard, it's just crazy. You could run into him, have a conversation with him in the store, and obviously you can look at him and be like, oh, that's a badass dude. But you would have no idea all the things that he's experienced in his life.
Right. places he's gone, things he's done.
Yeah, it's crazy the schedule that he pushes. Literally, we were setting up for the podcast, and he's on Fox, like hosting some Fox News show.
Yeah, he's on some award show. But then the other thing that really impressed me was the other night we were with him until, I'll get this wrong when I do, just correct me, but I want to say it was like 8 or 8:30. Then he had a men's Bible study that night where he saved a guy.
Yeah.
Or brought a guy to Christ. I mean, and then I was just like, man, I complain about my Spartan Forge hours and the time and stuff like that. It's like this guy spent most of the day with us at Archery Country, did that stuff, did the, and then did it, which I loved, and I love, and you guys know this about me, or at least I know Drew does. Gave us a good proper Irish goodbye, where he said nothing to no one and just like ducked out the back.
Yeah.
Which I love. That's one of my favorite things. And then, went to a Bible study with a bunch of men and led a Bible study. And then, they saved a guy that night, which I was just like, man, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You have to be pushing that kind of pace your whole life to like experience and accomplish that many things that he's done. There's just not, I feel like that's rare air to be at that level. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's other people that have done similar things to him that just aren't public about it.
Sure.
Which is probably like the sentiment that you're talking about, why other military guys don't appreciate that sometimes. But
yeah.
But no, that's, you gotta be a go-getter to do all the things that he's done.
Absolutely.
I say that about you too, though. Like, you've lived 5 lifetimes.
I told him that in the car today earlier because he said, I don't even know what you were talking about, but it's just like, dude, you have lived so many different lifetimes in a matter of, 40-something
I don't think
years.
on the level of Tim, though. Not close.
Just different.
Yeah, just
it's
the
very
things
different.
you've experienced in your life is just crazy. It's like it's like you've compacted so many experiences into such a short time.
And that's funny that you say that because I feel like I'm so behind.
That's how I feel.
I feel like, and I would say the same about you guys.
But you take like a normal average American, who maybe goes to school, gets a job, works 9 to 5, has the weekends, like then starts a family. It's like that's most people, and it's like that you are just such a exception to that. It's like the things you've gone and seen and done.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element to what you're saying, and I agree with you, and I think most people would generally agree with you. But I would say 99 out of 100 people, when you sit them down, there's a lot there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a backstory that's worth exploring. And then I think for the one person, what's exceptional about him, the 1 out of the 100, is that he's exceptional. So now you got to figure out what's crazy about that guy, right?
But, I mean, we've been hanging out for, 4 years now? 4 years?
Yeah, something
It's like every single time, and I feel like we have dug into a lot of stuff, but it's like every single time we're talking, you're like, oh, yeah, I did this, that, and the other. And it's like,
lived in
what?
some country for 4 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speak
I mean, I also
this other
don't want to
language.
sound like that guy because I feel like there's always those one-upper guys.
No, it's not in a one. It's not in a one.
Yeah,
way
I try to be but I also tell you guys everything. Like I really, and Thomas is slowly coming into that circle. I hope you know that or not. I don't know, but for me, I keep a very close circle of people, and obviously Drew married my wife and I, and I've just when we met the first time, I felt an instant connection with you guys, and I tell you guys way more than I tell most people. Like just because I feel comfortable, and also with most people, I have a governor, I guess you'd call it, or something, where I don't say almost a quarter of what I'm thinking, mostly because either it'll get me in trouble or it's not appropriate or it just doesn't fit the conversation. I'm wired weird. Like some guy made fun of me today when we were in line at the bow thing at the bow shop.
Hunter?
No. At the TAC, some guy had said something when we were in line, and I said something kind of like really blasé back to him. Mm-hmm. I had like 3 things that went through my mind first that I thought, no, that would nuke him. Don't say that. And then as soon as I walked away with Drew, I don't remember what it was, but I like rattled off the things I was going to say to him. That's generally how I live my life is I'll have a ton of thoughts. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
In a split second.
That's what I can't comprehend about you though. Thomas and I have talked about it multiple times, where it's like someone will say a phrase, and you will have the funniest like punchback response loaded and ready, and you say it in a split second, and it's like
Automatic
how
smart
you
Alex.
download that and then spit it back out a response it's like your calculating speed in your head is unreal.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's what makes you
Practice.
funny is that, like, I mean, for example, Hunter coming into the booth today, you can't, like, you're the last person on earth that I want to get into, like, an argument or, like, a dissing match with. I would never win. It would just be a roast. It would be a Lee roast every time I tried to argue with you.
You say some pretty funny stuff.
No, but, dude, no. It's
The problem is he might get one good liner off, but you got 10 of
20
them.
to go with
Lined
it.
up.
Just ready to go.
Yeah,
But what happened with? I don't remember Hunter. What happened with Hunter?
he was on your.
Oh, I'm
on
thinking
your
of
vest.
your Hunter.
No, Hunter Rudd.
Hunter Run.
When you had the knife on your bino harness,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a cute knife, Bill. You're gonna stab some
Encounter any
bear.
grizzly bears?
yeah
out
grizzly
there on the
bears out
course?
there," and you were like, "No, but I like to bleed and gut obnoxious redheads or mouthy redheads when I get the chance or something like that." And he just kind of just like, well.
Okay, see you guys later. I also have this rule that this is fun. I mean, I think it's fun. Just like to me, banter is two things. And for me in the military, a lot of times when I was evaluating guys, I got to select the teams that I worked with or I deployed with. And the first two markers I would go with, well, three, would be like, are they honest? Are they an honest person? But then this next one would be banter and like wittiness, and then thick skin. And with those three things, it's like, okay, if they're an honest person, awesome. If they can engage in banter, then they've probably got a high IQ. Like one of the highest correlators for high IQ among children, and it predicts it's stable across time through adults, is wittiness, being able to make fun of people quickly, and then, or being able to get in trouble quickly, complexly about things. Like you can evaluate what a child is doing and be like, oh, that's a smart child, or that's not such a smart child based on what they're doing. But then the thick skin, I think, is important too, because it kind of shows you that they can work under pressure, and that when they're under pressure and they're being made fun of, and they might actually the best being made fun of is when people are hitting you with honest things. But then when you can internalize that and laugh at yourself and then move on, well, now you're working under pressure, and you can hit them with the banter back. So when you have that triumvirate of things, then generally you have a person I can be around, or I like being around, and that are reliable. So, and I think all of us do that, right? Like,
Someone's mouth breathing, but I can't tell who it is. It's driving me crazy.
well, I was talking, so it wasn't me, right?
It's
it's 'cause I don't have
the
the
puffy
fish,
thing.
yeah.
It's the puffy thing. It's probably in my bag.
I'll just pull it farther away from my face.
We took a quick second, had to get the AC running, got a mic fixed, and got some new batteries. But
I don't sound like Darth Vader anymore.
no, it was bothering me the whole time. I was like, I don't want to say it, and I don't know who it is in this room.
Dude, you
I was
just
looking-
looked at me. You gave me the side eye. Like,
Well, I was looking at Drew, and I was like, it's not him. And I was looking at Bill, I was like, it's not him. And I was like, it's Thomas.
dude, he just turned to me like that, and I was like, bro, what
It's
did
like
I do?
someone's mouth breathing.
What
Then
did
I
I
was
do?
like, is it me?
I was
And
like, dude, I just got a shower. I know I ain't stinking that bad.
Are we rolling?
yeah, no, we're
Okay.
good. So, anyways, we kind of got off on a tangent, but the back to the Tim Kennedy thing. What I wanted to do was basically describe how crazy, he is, just
Yep.
with all the stuff he's done, and then get to basically what we're doing here this week. And it's like to the freaking workout. He put us through this
The ringer.
the absolute ringer of a workout, and I'm not going to say it was a mistake, because I really do think that we earned his respect.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too.
Not to mention his other buddy Shane showed up on a helicopter just to come work out.
Yeah.
That
Big
guy's
flex.
life goals.
Yes, he
Yeah,
is.
he's
Just zero.
Volume to 10.
Well, so we did the workout, and then it's like we're like, yeah, let's go to the coffee shop and get breakfast and stuff. And I asked him, I was like, how far do you live? Or I was like, how far do you live? And he's like, in a car. He's like, 2 hours. He's like, helicopter, 15 minutes. He's like, he said, us driving to the coffee shop and back is the most I will have driven in a car in probably 6 years.
No way.
That's what that is what he told me.
How is that possible?
Dude, I don't know.
That's crazy.
I think he literally just flies.
He's got this little miniature,
He's got 6 helicopters.
barely 2-seater helicopter. I mean, it's like a toy helicopter. that he flies around and just lands it in the parking lot of Archery Country when he has to get his bow worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
takes,
just like
takes it to the gym.
Texas is awesome.
Texas is awesome.
Our little experience here so far has just been so all over the ends, like on so many different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
And
it's been amazing.
yeah, so he put us through this workout, and when we were doing it, I was like, I knew he was counting my reps.
Yeah.
I think he was counting everybody's reps.
Everybody's reps.
I think he was counting everybody's reps.
That was annoying.
Mind you, the workout was a light one for those two boys too.
Yeah, they said they do that workout like literally every day.
Yeah.
And we have been sore for 4 days.
My hamstrings have been screaming. And every time we've been having like a hard time doing something, we'll be like picking something up. Tim Kennedy.
Just yell Tim Kennedy.
It's
It's been brutal, but he's said that he's had other, pretty like badass dudes,
tier 1 guys.
yeah, come in and work out with him, and he was like, those guys quit. He's like, y'all didn't quit.
Yeah, Shane actually said that at the end. He said the last workout that they had done with a couple of JSOC guys that just quit at the same time was an easier workout than the one that we were just doing. So that's high praise on y'all.
Well, I mean, you're a big part of that.
I
but-
mean, when you say we didn't quit, I think I did 4 rounds of the 10 that we were supposed to do for the last
on the
for
Rooney
the
one,
barbell complex.
the Rooney
No,
one
it was only 5
brutal.
rounds.
No, it was 10.
No, it was 5.
Well, I
Rooney?
was teamed
It
up
was
with
supposed to be
Shane. We did
10.
5 and 5.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was 10
You
total.
only missed 1.
So you just missed 1. Shane did 5. I did 5.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
yeah.
we were supposed to do 10 apiece.
No.
It was in the
Okay.
teams of 2, 10.
I got you.
So no, we didn't do as bad
All
as.
right, I don't feel that bad.
Yeah,
anymore.
no, it was good.
For a moment there, I watched Drew glean the infinite. He was just like,
I thought we were gonna lose him.
and then he just
Oh,
turned white.
yeah.
at the
That was
end.
bad.
It was
I'm just not-
intense.
well-
But it speaks again. Hold on, before you say anything. It speaks again to your ability to push yourself, because a lot of people can't get there, or a lot of
Yeah.
people. I know a lot of people who've never been there, and that, what I mean by that is just the ability to push yourself in a situation to actually find your limit.
Yeah, I think the issue was I ate like a granola bar before the workout, and I haven't been doing. I mean, we worked out for over an hour,
yeah.
and it was 5 individual rounds of EMOM every minute on the minute, and there was only 1 minute of rest between the rounds, so it was like nonstop for over an hour. I don't work out. I used to do that all the time. Like I've did CrossFit for a long time, but I do not have that kind of endurance right now.
I haven't done a workout
And
like that in a long time.
I think my blood sugar hit rock bottom, and I was struggling there.
Well,
for
Thomas had fasted the day before.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, I didn't-
mind you, I got to film some of this too, so
that's true.
I'd film like the first 2 rounds and then get in on it. So as far as the workout went, I had the lightest part of it, and I was still dying at the end of it. So true, props to you guys on
Well,
that part.
So, anyways, yeah, that's kind of like how this trip has started. And man, dude, it's been fun to hang with you again, Bill.
Yep.
I think that it's really cool to kind of look back to day one
Oh man,
and just kind of be 3 years down the road.
I'll never forget it. For the rest of my life, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, and I think like this is
Day
a good
one for me is the day y'all called me.
Yeah, and I think this is a good opportunity to like provide ultimate clarity or just like let people know a little bit more about that story is that like when you were what? You were like very on the fence about it?
I was getting ready to sell the first neural networks that we had built and the data. I got in a very
like
good,
how close to selling it?
I think like 2 weeks or so. I'd started paperwork on it.
And
I
so
started the paperwork.
then we called.
Yeah, I'd taken my son bass fishing up on the Potomac. Well, he always likes catching bluegill, but I'm trying to catch other fish. But we were fishing up on the Potomac up in Green Ridge State Forest, which I always talk about on podcasts. And I've been reached out to by guys who are like, stop talking about Green Ridge. It's a special place and you're ruining it. I don't care. It's awesome. That place needs revenue, so go to Green Ridge.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, people did that with North Dakota too. Like where I was born and raised in North Dakota, I had made a post where I was like, I have hit a life goal. I've got all of the people that I love hunting with me up in North Dakota right now, in northeastern North Dakota, I think I said or something. I had like 5 or 6 people be like, you're ruining a good thing. Like, no, this
The entire
place,
state.
everyone's
Yeah.
moving out of this place. We need as many people coming up here and spending revenue as
I
possible.
will say that you are good at saying statements that can get some people fired up.
That's fine. But anyway, yeah, I will. I do.
I'll ask you about one in particular later.
Okay. I don't shudder to think about what it is, but so what was I saying before that? Why? How did I get on moving? I was up
We
there
called
fishing.
you.
Yeah, I was up
Yeah.
there fishing, and Taylor Chamberlain called me, or he texted me, and I had limited service on the river. Basically, my son and I would float. We'd look for like a down log. We'd fish by the log. Every once in a while, I got service. I got a text from Taylor Chamberlain, who was under an NDA, and said, "Hey, I'm filming this thing with the Seek One guys, and they're interested in what you're doing. We should talk." And I was like, "Hey, dude, we're not supposed to be talking about any of this. Like, we're under an NDA." And yeah, just talk to them. I was like, okay. So I knew who you guys were. I'd seen your videos. I admired you guys at the time because, again, I said it at the beginning. I didn't think there'd be this many people that were Christ-centric in this space that we're in right now, or that I find myself in. And so I drove down to the place where I know I had service, and we had the phone call. And I had an offer for millions. It was for millions to sell all of this. I've been collecting this data for 5 or 6 years. It's very difficult to get a hold of. I was training neural networks, and then I had a path of ideas, and they just wanted to buy all of it and then have me for an advisor. I just thought, hey, if there's people who are successful in the industry that seem to think that we can do something here and shoot for the moon, we should. I guess I would be dumb not to try it. I've always had ideas, and I think I've shown it to you, or maybe Drew. I'm not sure who I've shown it to. I have a little green book where I write down all of my ideas. Every time I have an idea, I write it down. Now I do it on my phone in my tasks thing, but I used to do it in this little green book, and I had this green book of ideas, and I always wanted to build them. And I had a lot of people tell me that what became Spartan Forge, those ideas, should be a place I should start with because the market was kind of wide open. I had just gotten out of a bad negotiation with another company that had lasted almost a year, a large mapping company where I also almost signed on the line, but then just decided not to do it because it was too constrictive. I talked to you guys, and I remember being very on the fence about whether or not we should do this. And then I told myself I'd go back down to the river with my son, and I would pray and think on it. When we went down there, and I told him I explained to him. He was quite young at the time, the context of what had just happened. We prayed on it, and I knew by the end of that fishing trip that I was going to do it.
Wow.
And it's like, to go from, first off, do you regret any of it?
Not for a second. In fact, I would say to the opposite. I stressed myself out thinking that I almost went the opposite way.
Really?
That actually is what bothers me.
Turning away millions of dollars.
You could have your farm.
Well, I turned away millions of dollars. It would have ended up being, and I don't need any messages about this. I'm just contextualizing it. It would have been like 1.2, 1.3 for me, which sounds like a lot of money to people. You can blow through that. That's a house these days, or even less, in like a nice area, like downtown Atlanta or something, or like a nice area of Atlanta. That's half a house. I'm not saying it's not a life-changing amount of money. I'm just saying you only come across so many ideas that you think could be a game changer, that you could actually do something with, and that you have the capacity and the youth to do something with in a lifetime, if you even get one.
Yeah.
So it haunts me that I almost did it. And that to me is the mystery of faith, and the mystery of God is that ever since I met you guys, and I'm sorry this is the third podcast you've listened to me and you've heard me talk about how much I love these guys. I'm sorry. I apologize. But to me, this couldn't have gone any other way.
Yeah.
It's a very special bond. Spartan Forge and that hunting and whatever, all that aside, like just the friendships we've built amongst ourselves here and through you, like, have been something that you don't find every day.
For sure. And I felt that way from the first time we all met too. Like by the time we were at the end of the first time we met, I have a very small circle of friends, and generally it's been I'm not tolerated, or I don't tolerate people, or I open my mouth, or whatever, or I think I wear people out. I really do, and I think for us, we're all busybodies and like doing things, and we want to do the next cool thing, and we want to get on the next hunt, so I think in this group, I don't wear you guys out like I wear a lot of people out. So that I think helps as well, because we're all busy. We all have specified our goals, and we want to get after them. And it's also nice to be around other people who are doing that, because when you start doubting yourself or whatever, then you do a phone call, or you will find someone who's in the same position with you. Like Drew and I think once a month at least, we'll have a phone call where I'm just like unloading everything that's stressing me out.
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about a few times, and I don't know, we didn't really talk about it at depth when we first met, and we're trying to convince you to not sell the company, but you have several other ideas that you are currently working on that are great ideas. But there's like, having an idea is easy, but executing on that idea is difficult, and it takes time.
Yeah.
And I felt like you've spent like the last few years executing on the Spartan Forge idea, and it's like almost there. And I wanted to see you see it through before jumping to the next thing. And I think I felt that way.
No, and you told me that.
Yeah, when we first started talking, I was like, well, first of all, I immediately, like, just the way that you explained your ideas and like what you had already done, the research, the deer collar, the collar deer data, the AI program that you already written. I immediately was like, okay, this guy, he's onto something, and he's not like other people that I've talked to. Like, I immediately just could sense something. I also, for some reason, just like got the gut feeling that this guy is trustworthy.
I appreciate that.
And just like seeks truth, and is just a good person. I don't know why I felt that way.
I think all of us do that, right? I think everyone in this room does that. To all of our own different ends. Like, everyone, I think, seeks truth for different ends. But I think that's the other thing that everyone, for the most part, that's involved with this company is trying to do, is the truth, is to seek the truth. Seek one. Really?
Yeah.
It works.
I think that, like, full transparency, it was a leap of faith for you to believe in us and what we're telling you. But then it was also a leap of faith on our end too, because I mean, we left a paying contract to jump in the boat with you, and it's like, man, sink or swim. Like, we're doing this together. We're not asking for payment. Like, we entered as a small owner with you, and it's like we're in this together.
Yeah, and
whether this is a train wreck,
right,
or this is something that becomes something beautiful.
The night is young,
right?
We'll see. I mean, I choked up at the archery country speech I was giving the other night. The first time I almost choked up was talking about you guys, because you guys got in the boat with me in the beginning, and you really had no reason to. You walked away from a paying contract with a reputable company, and got in the boat with me on a leap of faith. And we joke about it. I can't parse it. Like, to me, it doesn't. Too many things had to happen, right? Again, it's the mystery of faith, the mystery of God. How these things even happen and come together. But the first time I choked up, when I was given that little stump speech on the Yeti cooler at the archery country event. And if you watch the YouTube or the Instagram in real time, you can see the first time I'm starting to choke up was talking about you guys. I don't believe it was anything without you guys from the beginning, from the input to the counsel, to the ideas, like the app ideas, the feature ideas, to the counsel that Drew's given me, to the advice, to you guys being with me in the boat from the beginning. Really, you can't. I'm thinking through it. I'm burning my processor right now trying to think through it. There's like, I don't know if you could make this happen again if you wanted to make this happen again in any other way. Like, I don't know if you could.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And that's insane to me.
And it's like, business is business. Like sometimes you have business relationships and it's like y'all have a friendship or it's just like kind of just at arm's length at times. But it's like Drew, like, was the pastor? Or what do you
Officiant.
the officiant of
yeah.
your wedding?
Yeah.
Like, could you ever have imagined that
No.
like, it would have turned into that?
If someone would have said to me, I always do this to myself, like I'll go back to a moment in time and like freeze everything and say, if someone had told you in the moment of time that you just hung up the phone with on that call is going to marry you and your wife, like that's where how do we get there?
Yeah.
Like how do we even begin to get there, right? That again, it's just insane, and it's I know how I'm coming off right now. I'm frying my processor. I'm eternally thankful for it. I really am. I'm eternally thankful for it.
I think it's
Well,
really
we are
funny.
too.
Yeah, I think it's really funny because you've said it several times, how you refer to your brain as a computer.
Yeah. I can feel myself overloading, and when I overload is when I get choked up. I can overload about something funny and start to get choked up. I can overload about something sad and get choked up. It doesn't matter. It's just when I overload, that's what happens, and I can feel it, and when it happens in real time.
What was the second time you were about to get choked up in the in your little speech?
When I looked out and saw some of the veterans and the guy Crispy
yeah.
next to us that was missing a leg, and I have a lot of I guess you could call it survivor's guilt. I know guys that died. Went to the flight line every time there was someone had died while we were overseas in Iraq or Afghanistan. They always had these ceremonies, people die, and there would be some boots, a rifle, a dog tag, and their helmet on the top, right? And then there'd be a prayer and a vigil or something like that. Some people I knew better than others. And throughout my service, I had a horseshoe up my butt or something. There are plenty of times where things could have gone way south for me. It just never did. Everything went pretty smoothly and really well. And I joined the military at 16 when I took my oath of enlistment, living in a trailer in the middle of – you guys saw the street I grew up in North Dakota when we were hunting in North Dakota. It's just a trailer court.
Barely a one stoplight town.
Barely a one stoplight town, little trailer court. The trailer that we moved out of had to be condemned. And, it was me and my brother, my older sisters and brothers, and moved out. My mother was a single mom and a waitress. And I just knew I needed to get out of North Dakota. And the trajectory of my life was just up from there. Just everything improved and got better in ways that, again, I'll be eternally thankful for. And so that I have a bit of a survivor's guilt about it because there's so many other people that either lost everything, their life, right? And that no one will ever see them again here, at least in this life, or their leg or their arm or whatever. And there were a few people at that archery country event that night who were there. So anytime I feel like, and that's why I try to do all the veterans hunts and I try to make a focus on veterans and all of that stuff. Even if I wasn't a veteran, I'd be doing that because say what you want about the military, the direction of the country or government or whatever. They're the people at the door, at the gate. And we owe them everything. And so those people being in the crowd was the second time I was choking up, again, for a multitude of reasons. They're there. They're supporting me for whatever reason. Who knows why? And Tyler. And I've gotten my education. I've learned languages. I've traveled the world. All of the richness of life that you talked about before is due to the military. Like, boom. And the strangeness of life can't be explained as well because I reflect on that. The reason I was a military intelligence officer is because I forgot my driver's license.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I would have been an MP.
I have a really
military
hard
policeman.
time comprehending things like that where you look at a very small moment that changed the trajectory of your entire life, like forever.
Yeah.
That led to all these amazing things. Like I sometimes struggle with like just kind of understanding that.
Yeah. And that to me is God. And I'll tell you why that to me is God. Like, we have free will, and I think that's I'll hear, if someone ever said to me, you've got 5 seconds or 50 seconds with Joe Rogan, what would you say to him? I've heard Joe Rogan ask many times, maybe earlier. I think he's actually coming around on faith, if I'm being honest with myself, or listening to him. But early on, he'd be like, why would God allow bad things to happen? Like, why would there's a 6-year-old child dying from cancer? Why would he allow that? So if I had 50 seconds with Joe Rogan, I would not utter the word Spartan Forge. I would say God allows those things because we have free will and free choice from the beginning, and we can take those tragedies and do something with them, or make something good from them, or we can descend into chaos with them. But the choice is ours, and people's time here on earth is everyone's time is it's the clock's going for all of us, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so when that child dies, you know, what can you do with that? Or when that person dies, or that soldier dies, or that, you know, we can use it to elevate everyone, or we can sink and go into despair. And Drew and I talked about this morning, and you and I talked about this morning, that despair and what it can do to people. That free choice, if we don't have it, we're automatons, and life's not special. And if free choice isn't there, and what came with free choice was that original sin. But to me, that is the beauty of life, is that we have that free choice. But God, being omnipotent, knows the course of our life. And I always think of God as being in like a helicopter above us. And like we're in the Colorado River, and it's big, and it's massive, and it's in the Grand Canyon. And we can choose a lot about how this is going to go. But when that river turns, we're turning with him. And he knows that turn is coming. You know what I'm saying? And so to me, those pivotal moments, free will is we're in the water. That's life. That's the earth, right? And that's the free will that we experience. But there are these pivotal moments where things are going to happen, and he knows that, like, there are rocks ahead, or there's clean water that's really nice to be in ahead, or whatever. And he knows about those things as well. It's our choice on how we're going to navigate it. And I just get choked up even thinking about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But those are those. Sorry, to put a bow on that. Those are those.
That's you forgetting your driver's license.
That's
It's
me
like
forgetting. He knows that's
nudging
coming.
you back into
That's
the, on the
right,
course.
right, exactly. And that's coming, and that is a pivotal moment.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that, and this is me getting real for a second, is that, you know, I went through a high in my life with my faith and my relationship with God. You know, like I grew up and, like, you know, obviously grew up in like a Christian household. And if you would have asked me at the time, I would have said, like, yeah, I'm a Christian, I believe in God. But like the reality was it was a head knowledge. It wasn't like real to me. It was a head knowledge. It wasn't a heart knowledge.
Right.
Like it hadn't sunk in.
Right.
And it wasn't until later in life I realized, like, man, I'm not a Christian. Like, I'm just not. Like I know, or
When was this? I'm sorry.
I mean, this was probably in college.
Okay.
And I'll bore you all from just stories and stuff that happened, but I did a traveling abroad thing, and it just like it really opened my eyes. I traveled abroad to Hawaii, and like it was the first time in my life that I was outside of my comfort zone.
Right.
And I had to sort of refigure out who I was. It was a college thing. It was like a transfer student deal, and it was, you know, it's a totally different culture out there. Mm-hmm. And I was actually like a minority for the first time in my life.
Right.
And it's like I had to refigure out who I was. All these comforts I had, you know, friends, just the normal, like, being in the South culture, like all of those comforts were gone. And I had to refigure out who I was. And I really struggled with that. And it was like I'm in this beautiful place. And again, a lot of stories happen, maybe for another time, but I found my faith out there. Like it just clicked for me.
Yeah.
I come back home, I got baptized, and everything was just like super, super real, no doubts. Like vividly felt the presence of God, like more than I can ever describe when I got baptized. And this was, I think I was maybe 23, 24, and like it's hard to describe. And it's maybe really the only vivid moment in my life where I like felt the presence of God, right, in a way I cannot describe.
Right.
And I was on that high, and I rid that high for a long time, and like I was a young life leader for years, and it's just like really plugged in, and it was on that high. And where I'm at in my life now is, contrary to what maybe people think or just see or maybe expect is that, like, I think sometimes they think, oh, well, you're an exception or exemption, or you're not susceptible to normal people things. But it's like, man, I'm in a low right now. Like I've fallen from that high, and I'm in a low right now where it's like I have doubts. It's like I know what's real. I've had those experiences, but you find yourself in this hazy place where it's hard to see. It's hard to see clearly.
Right.
And so, like, I've been really struggling to try and get back to where I was, and like I think it's maybe unrealistic to think that I'll ever be back to that place.
Oh, I think you'll be back there.
But my point and what I'm getting to is that, like, again, just being real, like, I'm in a low right now where I'm, like, struggling with that. But being around you and spending time with you, someone who is, like, so much smarter than I am, like, no, I mean that. Like, if I can see in you and see, like, undoubtedly what you believe, and knowing how absolutely brilliant and how extremely smart you are, for me to see that in you, it drives home to me that it's real, and it drives away a lot of those doubts, because it's like, if you dig into, like, the science of it all, like the facts of it all, like even you and I said something about, we brought up Jesus or something, and I was like, what did I say? We were at Corky's house, and I was like, I said something about, like, a lot of people today don't believe that Jesus existed, or something like that.
Yeah.
And you went into this ramble about, not a ramble, but just like how he's
Pontius Pilate recorded it.
Yeah, it's undisputed.
Tacitus.
Yep.
Tacitus. Other non-Christian historians wrote about him.
Something like 8 sources of non-Christian.
Where he's, like, one of the most historically recorded figures.
From that time, certainly.
From that time.
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about how it was like 2024, and then it's like, I was like, it's kind of crazy how there's a lot of people that, don't believe that Jesus existed, yet are dates that we're going off of, the years that we're going off of are based on him.
Yeah.
And that's when you went into time. And it's like me hearing that from someone who is so much smarter than me and understands that, like, it really just, like, almost lifts me out of that hazy place of, like, just, in a funk, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with where you are right now, and I would just say the thing that keeps coming into my head is like, the highest trees have the deepest roots. And so, like, that for you is like growth moment where your tree is getting big and blossoming or whatever. But you also have to dive down into the depths and make sure that your presuppositions and the things that you feel about Christianity are challenged, and those will drive the roots down. And that actually allows the tree to grow more. And that kind of cyclical revisiting of the foundations of your faith, I think, is normal and appropriate. So I think if you can find any solace in that, that's the solace that you should take from it, is that you can't be on the high all the time. If you're on the high all the time, you must be on drugs. Like, you have to come and ground the faith and come back to its origins. And, I think the story of Christ is like the ultimate hero cycle. And what I mean by hero cycle is, like, we see it in movies, we see it everywhere. But you described your, like, first hero cycle in that going to Hawaii, which is like, you could think of it as like Joseph, or the story of, there's lots of stories in the Bible where it's known place, unknown place, faith restored. And that's what movies are. They start in a known place, then you go into an unknown place, the chaos. You challenge the enemy, defeat the bad guy or whatever, faith is restored. And that's the same, like, yin and yang, and the same unconscious and consciousness, and the same, that hero cycle is the depth into the chaos that you described. And chaos is right, it's haze. That's the word you were using, was the haze. That's like the ocean, the sea. That's where the monsters are. And the Leviathan that they describe in Job is, it's in the haze, it's in the unconscious, and you have to fight those things. And when you fight those things, you come out of the unconsciousness, and the tree gets higher. A tree without deep roots falls over. And, like, that to me is so when you say these things, I understand where you're at, and I've been there, and I have nothing but, I almost said sympathy, but I stopped myself, because it's not sympathy. It's just you're grounding yourself. And I think if you can step outside of that and just recognize that it's a natural part of this thing, I think it could help you feel a lot better about it. But I mean,
It's almost like you're digging back in to figure out what's going to take you to the next level.
yeah,
So like, there's a phrase in business, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's what got you there. What got you here is not going to get you there.
right.
And so whatever got you there in your faith originally, which was probably more experiential, like dealing with the stuff in Hawaii and then getting into the young life, like that's a lot of experiential. You're feeling it in your heart. That got you on this high, and that can only get you so high. And now you got to dig back down. And I guess what you're saying about, like, Bill's done a lot of, he's a very extremely well read. Like, you've read all Greek mythology and
Yeah, well, I do that a lot.
yeah. I'm sure a lot of apologetics things.
Yep,
Like, maybe that's the next step that you're digging for to get you back up to that next level.
the higher level.
And like broaden the base of your faith.
Yeah, exactly.
That I mean, I'm pretty similar to you in the way that I think you're on 15,000 levels above me, but I kind of had a similar experience where I had experiential faith for a while, like through high school and stuff. But then in college, I kind of realized that I had some doubt because I'd never really dug into like why I believe certain things. And I went off on this kick of just like reading all sorts of apologetics books and, you know, figuring out the stuff about Jesus, like what proof do we have that Jesus existed, did the things that he said he did, was killed and then was risen from the dead, like read a bunch of books about that. And that totally solidified my faith. And I go into these lows as well. Like I'm would say I'm in somewhat of a low right now, but I can still look back and reflect on that point in my life where I was digging those roots and be like, oh yeah, like if that was enough to convince myself then I have no reason to like revisit that. And then seeing someone like you who's so much, we're gonna keep saying you're so much smarter than we are.
No, it's yeah.
There's a lot of people like that, like a lot of people like Stephen Hawking, who says that there is a God, or other people at that level that's like say it would take more faith to believe in the Big Bang, or take more faith to be an atheist than it would to believe in God. It's like, okay, if they have analyzed this way more, and have probably a much broader understanding of the universe than I do, and if they can believe in it, then
I can say with certainty that there's an underground movement among academics right now saying it couldn't be done without a designer.
Yeah.
It's underground still. I think it might percolate to the top here the next few years.
Is it just like they don't want to admit it almost?
Well, there's still this like chastising feature that comes with it where, you know, that's not for academics or whatever.
Sure.
What the thing with academics that people don't understand is academics tells us how the world works. Religion tells us how to act in the world. And I think people don't understand the two separate things. Like, but the other thing that I always look at with the Bible, and really for me, I have low points with faith as well. I think one thing that has helped me is mine are shorter now than they used to be. And I think that just becomes when you get into your 40s. Like, certainly when I was in my 30s, and you and I talked about it today, Lee, I had points in my life where I was really, like, not doing this well. And those were distended periods of, like, I could recite the verses, I could go through the whole thing. Culturally, I was a Christian. How I acted or saw the world, I was a Christian. And most people are culturally and pragmatically Christian. If you're an American, you're a Christian, pretty much. Sorry, people that are offended. But if you believe in, like, a right to life, if you believe in innocent until proven guilty, the value of the individual, you're just a Christian. You just don't know it, or you haven't recognized it yet. Because go live in Saudi Arabia, go live in Dubai, go live in Russia, go live in India. None of these people believe in it, and because this country is so great, and where we were started, you know, John Adams, I believe, is either Adams or Jefferson, said that you can't be a Christian, or you can't be an American without an understanding of the Christian doctrine, Christian beliefs, and what they built the framework of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence on. But the reason I say all of that is my periods now are they are shorter, I guess. Like my descents are a little shorter. They're not as sometimes they're just as deep, but I'll get out of them a little quicker. And I think it's just coming with age. I hope that offers some help for people who might be going to this. I trust or I hope that God would use us, that people would be listening to this right now who are kind of experiencing the same crisis of faith that I think we're talking about. And I'm not saying you guys are having a crisis of faith. I'm just saying people descend into chaos and they need tools to come out. And when they listen to things like this, then we can help provide them with the tools to come out. And for me, at least now, the way that my mind works, one of the things that I look at is I can actually communicate with God through my actions, and I can see the response. I can see the things that my flesh want now. I can see the inclinations of what I want to do now in the moment. I want to spend more money than I should. I want to, live in the now, really, is my big problem, is I want to live in the now. And I can sit and pray and think about it and say to God, like, I'm going to put these things off, and I'm going to work for you in the future and do a bunch of things I don't want to do right now for a few days. And then I can this is just one mode. There's multi-modes to do this, but for me, it's a mode that really works well. And it actually helps me pull my bootlaces up or my boots up and get to work, is I can communicate with God through my work and work my butt off. And as I do it, it's like everything clicks into place for me. It's like the structure of reality clicks into place. And then I find this, and the only writer that really talked about it a lot was Nietzsche, but he called it rapture. And it's just this thing where, like, you're doing the exact right work in the exact right moment for the exact right reasons. And you're pursuing truth while you're doing it. And when all of those things come together, you get this, like, buzz. And you're like, I'm in the right place at the right time right now. Mm-hmm. And it will culminate with a deer walking in front of you or landing a big business deal or making a friendship that's going to last forever. But you feel it in the back of your head. I was actually talking to my son about it the other day. And it was in the framework of, like, talking about heroes and movies and why we love the pattern of the hero so much, like what that means. Even Christ had to descend into hell. He was down in the prison and preached to the souls for 3 days, and he rose again, was ascended into heaven. That descension into chaos is technically and narratively and scripturally and religiously and fundamentally and biologically what makes us human and separates us from everything else. And the more we pursue that pattern and put off the things that we don't want and look towards the future, the better our life is. And I think that's why there are stories like in the Old Testament with Abraham and the sacrificing of his old son, which in the end, God didn't make him do it. But what God will do to you is say, if you're going to follow me, I'm going to call on you to sacrifice the things that you don't want to sacrifice the most. And if you're willing to do it, great things will happen for you. Like, the best things will happen for you. And he doesn't make him sacrifice his own son. So people that want to talk that way or talk about God that way, he doesn't do it, and God knew he wasn't going to do it. But when you can put it off and work towards the future really hard, he'll go and dialogue back with you.
You're pulling a Jordan Peterson on this right now.
Right. Yeah, I am. Because I've been thinking, what's killing me still is archery country. Is the veterans archery. Because they went off to sacrifice. Yeah. And it took everything. And it continues to take everything from them. And you watch those guys. And that's what I was thinking about when I said it. But it goes all the way back. And you can pull on that string. You can go and watch Thor Ragnarok. And you're watching the story of Jesus. Go and watch The Shawshank Redemption. The Shawshank Redemption is a great movie. The #1 movie of all time. You go on any movie database, IMDb, anything else, it's the #1 movie of all time. And then you think to yourself, why? Why is it the #1 movie of all time? Well, you have a man who's tried by his peers, who is innocent, is ultimately found guilty. He descends into chaos, and he goes in, and he creates a band of disciples. And through work and sacrifice, he takes them onto a building, and he turns water into wine, in that case, beer. He makes them believers. He goes back into the prison. He judges. And then he's reborn literally out of a cistern or out of a sewer into the water. He's baptized in a river. And then he goes to the ocean where he's working on a boat to make his friends fishers of men. I mean, have you heard that story?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
It's the reason why it's the #1 story of all time, because it's just
never
the
knew that
pattern of
until
Christ.
I never knew that until you told me. I think maybe one of the last times we hung out.
Yeah, it's just I mean, when you watch Thor Ragnarok, when you watch the Wolverine movies, when you
About
watch
the Green Mile, wasn't that one of them? Maybe.
yes, the Green Mile, all of those movies, it's just the retelling of the pattern of Christ. And that's another way that you can look at Christ and know that it's like the meta pattern. And what I mean by that is you can count 3 oranges and 3 apples or whatever, and that's kind of useful. But if you can abstract apples and oranges out of it and just say 1 + 1 is 3, now you have an abstracted tool. And that abstracted tool can change the world. Like math as an abstracted tool can change the world. You can split an atom with it. You can put a man on the moon with it. You can create artificial intelligence with abstracted knowledge, math. The story of Christ gets abstracted into our media and creates media that are the most powerful tools in the world. Like movies and books are the most powerful tools of all time. And that's because we see that pattern, the pattern of Christ, and we're pulled to it. That story makes up our being. It's what we are. It's that rising and that descent and then that ultimate rising that we really want at a deep level.
I think the part that helps me, like, you're a skeptic, right? I would say you're a skeptic.
Are we talking about like Hellenistic faith?
Maybe just in general.
Oh, okay. I would say
where like you hear something, you investigate it.
Yeah.
through a
I'm skeptical.
lens.
Yeah. I thought you were asking me about.
The reason I say that is, like, to me, you're not looking at this blindly. It's not like you're just believing it because you want to believe it.
No.
Like you've done your homework.
I'm compelled to.
Right. And the reason I picked up on that even recently is that we were listening to that podcast about remote viewing, and it's like I'm listening to it. And I'm like, I kind of believe this. Like, and Bill the whole time was like, this is bullshit. This isn't true.
I
He's
said
like,
no.
this is all
Let's
crap.
get my words exactly right. What I said was I'm 95% sure that this is BS. 5% of me has to leave a window open that there might be something here.
But it's that skeptic lens because I'm listening to it and I'm like, dang, this is real. And you're the whole time you're just like, no, this is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that bothers me about it is, well, no, I won't get into that. But I mean, it's compelling. It's compelling. Don't get me wrong. I tend to like. The whole podcast to me seemed like an appeal to authority.
I feel like if there's anybody that would have been like read into that program or would know something about it, it would have been you.
Yeah,
I feel like you would have dabbled in that program or something.
Maybe, but I didn't.
He might be lying to us.
Yeah, I
Could
wouldn't
be.
lie to you
We
guys.
know there's
Covering us.
things that you can't tell us.
Well, of course there are things that I can't tell you, but most of them relate to like sources and methods, and they don't relate to, if there's a program about aliens, like I said before, I have my own theories about aliens and what they are. And my number 1 and 2, I've said it and I can say them quickly, is it's either us from the future and we figured out space-time travel and these little drones are us from the future, because I still believe Eve's the mother of all living, or the government just needs more money. So they're going to publish this nonsense so that we can build a bigger budget and they can tax people more because the aliens are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before we go down that rabbit hole, we were on the faith thing, and I had an idea.
Yes, please, because I've been talking the whole time. So,
In reference to what Lee was talking about in being in a low or whatever, like David was the man after God's own heart, and he wrestled with God all the time. Like, he had doubts, he had problems, and he sinned as bad as anybody can. But yet he was still a man after God's own heart, and he's still,
it's still called the House of David.
Yeah, and like I think the beauty of free will, like you talked about earlier, and the beauty of the lows that we have to go through in life and the struggles, is because the end goal is becoming the best and the most sharpest version of who we can be.
Yeah.
By the end of our life.
Yeah.
And God gives us that blessing to be able to do that. So we have all of the crap that you have to deal with as a human, the temptation, the sins, and everything that comes along with it. That's the beauty of that, is that it shapes us into the best version that we could be. Because otherwise we'd be modes or whatever you called it, if it was just programmed and there was no sin.
Yeah, we'd just
and
be
there was no
automatons.
challenge. Yeah.
We'd be. Yeah, I mean, I think you said like a ton of interesting things right there. I think the first thing that you said is super interesting is, this is a hunting podcast, but the first thing you said, wrestles with God. That's literally what the word Israel means.
Mm-hmm.
He who wrestles with God. And then I don't remember who it was in the Bible, but there's actually somebody who wrestles with an angel. And I'm trying to remember where that was.
And he leaves mute.
And he
for a
actually
few
wins.
days. Yeah.
And he wins. That's the weird part, right? And then the third thing that you said, wait, there was three things that you were saying there, and you were blowing my mind with it when you were saying it. Because the words that we choose are important when we're talking about these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they mean things. But I'm trying to remember what the third point that you made there, and it was blowing my mind, and now I've forgotten it. Anyway, we can move on.
The main point I wanted to make was like, not to be discouraged that you are in a time that doesn't feel spiritually high, that you're not necessarily, like you said, experiential faith.
Yeah.
You don't feel that buzz of experiential, high or whatever. We keep using that word, but whatever. But I think you should look at it of like, because you're going through those doubts or having those struggles, like you said, it makes you dig deeper to make the roots stronger.
Yeah.
It makes you ask the questions and turn to the people like Bill, like Drew, who are in your life, who've been through the things.
Are going to go through them again.
Yeah, and then it makes you reinforce that. So now you're stronger. You're not relying on this emotional high of faith to get through life. Now you are relying on the things that have challenged you and that you have gone through these things and fought the good fight and resisted the temptation and figured out why you believe what you believe. And that's a blessing. And you should be grateful for that. We should approach that with gratitude and say, I am thankful that I have to wrestle with these things because that makes me a stronger person.
Yeah, it actually.
it's working out your faith muscles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the point I was going to make that I've remembered now was when I talked about communicating with God or like having a dialogue with God, you can actually ask him. And you said Jordan Peterson, which is funny. He was a big fan of Carl Jung. I'm a huge fan of Carl Jung. I've read all of his stuff. He called it the self. I call it the Holy Spirit. But there's a fully realized version of yourself inside of you that judges you. And you can find out what it thinks. I think it's the Holy Spirit. People have different names for it. Jung called it the self. Nietzsche would have called it the Übermensch. But you can communicate with that thing, that entity. It's the Holy Spirit for me. And it will tell you how you're falling short. And it'll also tell you what you have to do if you just quiet yourself and listen. And I get upset when I think about how far I am. But like I will sit and think about a long time about what I could be if I got everything together. And every way that I know I fall short of the glory of God and I miss the mark and I don't serve him like I should. That frustrates me. But then it also motivates me because it's providing me the map in real time that I need to actually get out of that haze, out of that depth, out of that unconsciousness, out of that chaos. Mm-hmm. And to get out of it. And then when you get out of it and you look back at it, you're like, it's awesome that I was there. The map was inside of me. And then that also blows my mind because the map's inside of you. Like, you just have to sit and listen and communicate with the Lord and dwell on it. And the answer was there. Mm-hmm. And if we were just automatons or if there was no God or whatever, then why don't I just have the answer?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I just, I'm in this bad place. Oh, this is what I do. Like, why do I have to sit at the edge of a bed or get on my knees and hands and pray and think about it? Then the answer comes to you? Mm-hmm. Where is that coming from? And why was it right? And how did it work? And how did I get here now? And how did I look back on that? And why wasn't it just there? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it comes from somewhere. And that, again, to me is one of those, again, being like engineering minded, it blows my mind that people, to me, it seems like it should be the exception that people don't believe in this or don't believe in God or whatever, because I just hit this from every angle I can, and it just keeps coming up. Like any good scientific experiment, you're trying to test a hypothesis in many ways. Mm-hmm. And every time I test this hypothesis, it just comes back green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what another thing that I've been kind of thinking about or really just recognizing lately that's strengthening my faith is just how apparent evil is in the world.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it a little bit. I think I overheard y'all talking about just kind of some of the stuff that's going on in America right now, and like the people that are in charge of the government and who really is pulling the strings and calling the shots, and is it like one corporation, or like is it George Soros or BlackRock or whatever?
Yeah.
And I think it's just like there's no way that one individual or one company can be pulling all these strings and controlling such a massive just
Force of evil.
force of moving parts and so much stuff, such a complex system. And I think it's like, I think it just proves that there is evil and there is good, and there's people that work for evil and there's people that work for good. And you know, I haven't fully like thought through. I kind of just recently came to this conclusion because I've been wondering and like listening to podcasts and stuff. It's like, who's pulling the strings? Like who's really telling Biden what to do and what laws to pass and what decisions to make? And no one has a good answer. People like Tim Kennedy.
We already talked about this.
People like Tim Kennedy or like other, you know, people that are in that world high up, like they don't have answers really. And I think it's because like they're really the only answer is that there is evil out there, and it's in a lot of people. It's like infiltrated
Their
a
minds.
lot of organizations, a lot of people, a lot of people with power.
And also people are getting it from birth now.
Yeah.
In a way that we haven't gotten it before. Like, live in the moment. Live in the now. Don't worry about the future.
Yeah.
Do what your feelings tell you. If you listen to your feelings, if you listen to the animal inside of you, which we all have, it will destroy you. Like, it will just chase pleasure. Chase the moment now. Like, take the drugs. Smoke the weed.
Well, that's the devil's playground.
Overdrink.
Is our mind.
Yeah, it is. And overthink and doubt and cast aspersions on the work of everyone who's come before you to make such a great place, and just crap on them. The founder's own slaves, you know, all the way up until now. And it's like, only now we're benevolent enough to crap on all these people, these giants that came before us. And this framework and all of these things have been gotten built for 6, 7, 10, 12, 15,000 years, whatever it's been. Like, you know, the inkling of Western thought that's gotten us from the caves to here, or whatever you want to call it. You don't get to just crap on all of that. And we've been doing that and teaching kids to do that from birth, and then we're wondering why they have no meaning, or why they're aimless, or why they doubt everything, or why they don't believe in God or anything else. And then we really scratch our heads when they end up getting a sex change, or getting their genitalia lopped off at 13, or they're addicted to drugs at 16, or they're trying to drop out of school, or they're addicted to social media and all of these things. It's like, we've been telling them that this is how they should think and feel from the beginning. And I remember getting told this is how I should think and feel from the beginning. We're just really, but I do think on the positive side of it, there's a resurgence going on where people are thinking more and more like how you just articulated yourself, and like what's going on. Because I think, if anything, people are looking at places like Los Angeles and San Francisco and saying it's not working. Like, the experiment's not working.
Yeah.
And we're actually screwing ourselves over right now. And the flood's coming, you know, and there are people building boats, and there are people who aren't. And that's another story, you know. That's another. You should be listening to God. The voice of God is going to tell you what to do. And he's going to tell you that when the flood is coming, and if you don't build the ark, you're going to die with the rest of them. And that's a descent into chaos story. That's just that meta pattern that we're hearing about all the time. And I think there's a resurgence. I think people are starting to put it together and to see that this is not serving us. And you're starting to hear people talk about Stoicism and about Christ and about the value of this country and why it's so good. Like, go live in India with the caste system. Go talk to somebody who's going to be born into a third-rung caste system, and they cannot escape it no matter what they do, and they will be a slave. And they're going to be crapping in a street corner, and they can't ever get out of that. Like, in my story in India would be impossible. Like, the caste of society that I was born into in the U.S., they would said you're relegated to that to the rest of your life, and that's where you're going to be. And our country and our ability to navigate the socioeconomic hierarchy, and if we're just willing to do the right thing and tell the truth and bring those along with us and place the value of trust and truth at the top of the hierarchy in any of our pursuits, and you just do that, you're gonna do well here. And that can't be said everywhere else. In fact, in other places that will get you killed. And if we don't turn it around here, pretty soon it's going to get you killed.
It frightens the hell out of me of like the future or the direction that we're headed right now.
I think there's a resurgence.
No, I agree. 100% I agree. But I even mean from like a technology side, because I remember, and I don't know what age I would have been, but like I remember when there were no cell phones.
Yeah.
Like I guess maybe 12, 13 years old, like there were no cell phones. And it's like now your cell phones can do all of these insane things that it can do. And it's like that's been in the first quarter of our lifetimes. What's going to happen in the second, third, fourth quarter? It's like I'm almost terrified at times to think about like what we're going to see in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Spartan Forge is going to become sentient and take over the world.
It's part of the resurgence.
That's not happening. No, I hope that Spartan Forge would stay on the side of truth. And I don't believe that we're nearly anywhere. I'll say this very quickly. I don't think we're anywhere near as close to anything that approximated general intelligence as some people think we do. I think some people like Musk think we're like 10 or 15 years away from a general intelligence, which is like an intelligence.
What does that mean?
A general intelligence is just basically a human in a machine. It can pick up patterns and learn things on its own. It has its own course, its own direction, its own thoughts, its own motivations. People think we're 10 or so years away from that. I think we're more like, if it's even going to happen, 50, 75, or 100 years away from that. I don't think we're anywhere. I could be totally wrong. This thing could come out in 2 years.
You're saying that, and literally 2 nights ago, Cyber Scout was spitting out answers about hunting in the lyrics and tune of Eminem "Lose Yourself."
Yeah, it's all linear equations, though. It's all linear algebra. It's all weighting. When you lift the sheet up on AI and you actually look at what it is, it's just pattern analysis, and that is a pattern. And when you can teach something to recognize a pattern and spit the pattern back out, it's awesome. But when you ask an open AI or Spartan Forge to write something, you're never going to get Hemingway.
Yeah, that's true.
You're never going to get Marcus Aurelius. It's so far away from that. When you ask an open AI thing to like write a paper about something, it's like the most cookie cutter crap stuff, and you can pick it up right away. Like I'm doing my master's right now, and I'm in these college courses where you have to do like posts online. You can 100% pick out the people that are using like ChatGPT to write their little discussion posts and stuff. It's like laughable, and I don't know why the teachers aren't doing anything about it, but they're not. There are also AIs that can pick up on it, but they're not thinking about it or doing it. I'm actually in a mythology, like a graduate level mythology class right now, where the things that I was just talking about before, I'm writing about almost every day, and I enjoy it. Like I woke up this morning, Lee and I were sharing a hotel room last night, and I was like, oh, I hope I don't wake him up. But I woke up this morning at like 6 to start writing my paper, 6:30. On this stuff that we're talking about, and I'm reading through the comments, and they're like, this guy who, we're reading Odysseus right now in the class, and I was like, there is 0% chance that this guy came up with any of these ideas about Odysseus, or that he could affect them in this prose. Like, there's just no way.
What's the point of even trying to get your master's if you're just gonna just copy it from AI?
To get the degree, to hang it on the wall and get the paycheck. Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is it's so far away from when you actually see a well-crafted, elegantly written piece of prose that is actually trying to communicate an idea. Like, I keep revisiting The Old Man and the Sea. I did it last year when we were hunting elk. I'm doing it again now with my son.
I have been reading that one, actually.
There's more packed into a sentence of that book, and more you can pull out of it, and his economy of words. I'm actually friends with his grandson.
Really?
Yeah, and he sent me one of the books from their library and some of his stuff. And the amount that's in those books and how he wrote and how efficient in his words and his economy of words. And it seems simple, but it's dynamic and thoughtful at the same time. Like there will never be a computer that can do what Hemingway did, and it's impossible.
I could see the resurgence that you're talking about. I could see people going back to like all your schoolwork is going to be handwritten now. That
Yes.
It's like no more of this computer stuff, and it's kind
And
of
it's gonna be handwritten in class.
yeah, and I it's kind of the similar vibe to like why, old school camo patterns are so in right now. Is that it's like
We talked about this the other night too.
yeah, it's just like stuff has gotten so advanced that it's kind of like I think people are almost like sick of it, and they're like, man, I kind of want to get back to like what it was.
We were talking about Creed, wasn't it? Creed.
Yeah.
Maybe
We were talking about like
The
why
band?
why the '90s bands. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the vintage. We're talking about
Vintage
just
stuff
vintage
and like
stuff in
old
general.
stuff that
Yep.
reminds us of a time before everything was kind of like plastic
It's all cheap.
Yeah.
and contrived and quickly made. And our music's like that, our media's like that. Like look what's happening with like the Marvel movies and stuff. There's just a sausage
trash
factory
now.
of trash. Like they used to put out good stuff that was
Sausage Factory. What?
yeah, just rolling the sausage out, just
Okay.
like not thinking
Thank you for
about it.
explaining that.
Cookie cutter.
Cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Very much second the Marvel movie thing.
Yeah.
They were great.
They-
Now they're
like,
trash.
they
Movies
started-
aren't even close to
But
what they
when you
used
look
to be.
at when they started, it's just the story of Christ.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just being retold over and over, and I like that. I like watching the story of Christ being retold. Like, just go and watch Thor Ragnarok, and then just remove yourself from it for a minute and watch it. And you're like, this is just the story of Christ.
Yeah.
And then when you watch it and you see it, it's fun to watch and it's fun to do. But then they try to twist these things and put them on their heads, and that's propaganda. They're trying to take the story of Christ or try to take the story of Moses, these really archetypal stories, and they're trying to turn it into something else. And that's when you get into like propaganda.
I
And-
can't stand when I'm watching a movie and it's got a clear like political
Yeah.
driven
And people
deal
can
in
see
it.
that, and they recognize propaganda when they see it. And why are they recognizing it when they see it? Because it doesn't fit the pattern of Christ. It doesn't fit the meta pattern.
The pattern of Christ is the reason you don't see it is because it's part of human nature.
It's your
Like,
yes.
craving that rise and fall and victorious and conquering the valleys and all that kind of stuff is woven into what it means to be a human.
Yes,
what it means to
precisely.
be wired to hunt and overcome and
Yes.
provide and all those things. That's why you don't see it when you watch a good movie, and it feels good.
Yeah.
It's an unconscious
Act.
act.
Yes.
But it stands out in other movies because it's going against what is natural.
This isn't
to
how the
human.
pattern works.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The only good movie that's come out, in my opinion, in recent history has been like the Top Gun Maverick movie.
Peanut Butter Falcon. That was a good one.
Amazing movie.
Yeah,
And do you
that was
know
good
why
too.
you like the Top Gun Maverick movie? Because they're bringing back old good things.
Yeah.
Just like Creed.
Agreed.
Just like Creed.
Just like it is. That's what's happening. You literally have an old man, Tom Cruise, who's 60,
Yep.
coming back and being a proponent for using an old jet
Yep.
to go and fight a faceless enemy in a place out in the middle of nowhere. And it starts in the known world, and then there's the chaos when he doesn't think he can make the thing, and then he makes the thing, and he saves the world, and everyone's great.
It's like the classics of like the Happy Gilmores, the Water Boys,
Yeah.
like the Tommy Boys, like those classic movies. It's like I just don't see them happening again.
Yeah. Well, they will. They will, because new artists will come out of it, and artists have a story that they need to tell, and it's the story of Christ. I'm going to keep saying it. It's in some ways the story of Moses and some other ones. It has to flow out of them, and then it has to come out of them because they're creative. And if creative people don't create, they go insane. Like watch Kanye West. Watch that guy go 2 years without creating an album. Be walking around with a mask on his face. Creative people have to emote creativity, and that's because they're super open. It's like Alex Jones, Kanye West, Elon Musk. They have to create, and they have to open themselves to the world and make things. And then when they do that, they're okay. But when they stop doing that, they're not okay. But that pattern has to play itself out in the world. And then when it plays itself out in the world with open people, really open and highly intelligent people,
With arms wide open, people.
under the sunlight. But when that plays itself out, and then we watch it, everyone celebrates it, and we give these people money to keep doing it because we want to keep seeing the pattern.
Oh yeah.
It's wonderful.
The benefit to it now, though, is that the rise in media and the ease of things, I think, clouds a lot and provides a lot of distraction for humanity, and I did struggle with it all the time. But it also makes it a heck of a lot easier for people to tell their stories and for people to create, like you just said.
Yep.
And to find a way, so even, the big time movie budgets and stuff like that, well, they might be going down the wrong track, but there's plenty of opportunity for everybody else to do their own thing.
Yep. And that stuff will keep coming out. And I think we're in a resurgence. I think I actually happen to think that we'll see people less on their phones going into the future, and that the rubber band is getting pulled.
Mm-hmm.
And people are getting,
Sooner
it's
or later,
getting
it's gonna
tighter and tighter.
retract.
It will snap back, and there'll be a revolt, just like there has been with everything else.
I really think that is what has played so heavily into the vintage camo thing.
Yeah.
Because like even like I went hunting with my first ever shotgun as a youth, Remington 870 20 gauge. I loved every second of that hunt. It was just fun, just like, feel like I was a kid again with that gun. It's like one of my favorite hunting pants is a pair of like old Realtree pants that I've had since I was like 16 years old.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of cool to have stuff with meaning again.
Yep.
And I do feel like that there is that resurgence that's coming. And it's not just in the hunting industry. I feel like
it's everywhere.
Yeah, I feel like it is everywhere.
Yep. And there'll always be a place for AI, and there'll always be a place for computers, and there'll always be a place for apps. But I just think culturally we're going to start treating them like smoking.
Yeah.
I think in 5 years, 6 years, hopefully, we'll see someone on a phone in a restaurant and be like, now, dude, really? Like, take it outside. I don't want to look at it. I'm already that way. Like, when I'm with friends and, like, you're eating dinner or you're trying to have a conversation like we're having right now and someone picks up their phone, or my son does it. My son's phone's gone. Like, I got rid of it because I was like, dude, I'm tired of you picking that thing up whenever I'm trying to talk to you. So it's just gone now, and you're never getting it back. You're going to have to buy your own when you get a job. I think that's coming. I think in 5 or 6 years it's going to be like, you are, it'll look like somebody who's getting a fix. We'll start looking at it that way, I think.
It'll
it's like,
have
oh, you got to get your phone
distaste.
fixed now, dude?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to talk to you. Can we talk?
I'll tell you that, like, doing these podcasts has quickly become my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I genuinely just enjoy like talking with people, hearing people's stories, and just having, hopefully meaningful conversations. But I think I just now realized that the bigger part of why I enjoy it the most is that we put our freaking phones up.
Yeah.
And it's something we never, like, that people don't do anymore, is that they sit down without their phones and they just talk.
Yeah.
Just converse.
And we have a
engage
real
with
need
each
for
other.
that.
100%.
Yeah, and we talked about that before too, dude. And again, I'm gonna keep talking about Christ. I don't care. Come at me.
Hey, we did talk about hunting. We talked about vintage camo.
We'll get to
there.
hunting,
We'll
and if
get
people
there.
hang on, there's a surprise. But we've talked about this, and I don't know if we podcast about it. If we have, I'll be very quick about it. But Jesus said in the Bible, anywhere 2 people are gathered in my name, 2 or 3 people are gathered in my name, there I'll be. Mm-hmm. And that Holy Spirit, that Christ, that Logos, the word Logos means the word made flesh. That's what Logos means, the word made flesh. And that means in Greek it's truth. It means the truth, right? And then so when you have 2 people engaging in the Logos, you have Dialogos. And that's dialogue. Oh. So when any people are in true dialogue, you technically have Christ in the room. Technically speaking, he's here because he is the truth. He's the way, the truth, and the life. So if we all get together and we don't have pretension, we're not trying to one-up each other, we're actually trying to learn from each other, we're trying to share stories like you guys shared really private, personal places where you are in your life right now, that's authentic and true, and you would be able to tell if they weren't doing it. And the reason you'd be able to tell if they weren't actually at that place in their life is because you're not fitting the pattern, and therefore you're a liar, and you're doing the enemy's work. When you're engaged in dialogue in that Dialogos, and we're actually trying to learn and help each other, technically speaking, you're trying to better each other, and that's the truth, and that's God. So you've put Christ in the room. So he's here with us. We're engaged in the Dialogos. And technically speaking, there's 2 flavors of it. There's Philonikia, which is where we get the word philosophy. Philosophy is the love of man. Philonikeia means the love of the wind. Philosophia means the love of man. So if you're engaged in the I can't speak English right now.
Words are tough.
Philosophical dialogos, Christ is in the room.
Wow.
If you're engaged in philosophical Nikeia, you're trying to win an argument. So discussion. Are you trying to learn with me, or are you trying to pound me? Like, you're trying to make me feel dumb and like you're smarter than me. Well, then you're engaging in philonikeia. You're part of the problem. You're just trying to pound someone with ideas. I'm smarter than you. I know more than you. But if we're doing if we're philosophizing, and we're doing it with the Dialogos, which means people gathering and talking of things that are true and the betterment of others, Christ is here. That will give you that feeling that you talked about that you had when you were in Hawaii when you were a kid. Like that you're in the real place, the real time, doing the right thing for the right reasons. And you'll know it's real. Just like I said, I told my son a couple weeks ago, you'll feel it in the back of your head. That buzz will come there, and there's the self, the deep part of you, the Holy Spirit, will be telling your brain, this is right. What we're doing here is right. This is good. Keep doing it. And I would hope that everyone has that feeling in the room right now.
I feel it. Yeah.
And if then you feel Christ. It's technically happening. It's another mode where I look at this and say, it can't be any other way because it's happening. I mean, is everyone feeling it? I feel it.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Oh, he touched the back of his head.
But you feel it.
Yeah.
It's like it can't be any other way.
Well, to me, it's like we got on this to talk about the new stuff y'all are doing with Spartan Forge, and yet we've all just kind of shared. You guys have shared your stories, like, and we're talking about Christ. Like, obviously, everything that happened this past weekend, everything that happened to you for getting your license, it brought us all here to this moment to speak about these things for someone else or for us.
Right.
For the benefit of us growing closer to God.
Yep.
And, yeah, I mean, I feel it.
Yeah, and it motivates me. These are the moments that I seek and I live for.
It's back to your license thing, like that little small thing.
Yeah.
I have one that stands out to me that I think about all the time.
Do tell. I love these.
It's not like I don't know, man. It's not like something that like changed the direction of my life by any means, but it's something that could have ended my life in a second, and I wouldn't be here at all with you guys, and it have been down this journey with Sequan and knowing all like you and Thomas. Like there's a couple like close life calls where like, you know, I almost died kind of stuff.
Yep.
One in particular, though, like, it haunts me. I think about it all the freaking time. And I'll try to explain this real quick because we will move on. We will jump into hunting stuff, and I want to end with some cool Spartan Forge stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is you know, obviously more important. I remember, and this was before Sequan. I think my truck was in the shop, and I borrowed my dad's like smaller car. And I was driving back over to their house to go see them maybe for dinner. And I was in this turn left lane. And it's, you know, I'm at this intersection. The lights are red, and I'm in this turn left lane. And there's one car in front of me. I'm the car behind it. And obviously waiting on the light to turn green and give us the turn left signal. So sitting there waiting. Light changes, and there's a car that had pulled up to my right that was in the go straight lane, and it had its blinker on, and it's like clicking over to the blinker, and I'm like, I see them, and I'm like, okay, they want to get in front of me to go left. I'll be nice. I'm a you know, let them, when the light turns and gives me my arrow, I'm gonna let them come over to my lane and let them you know, go in front of me so they can make this light. So the light changes, we get the green arrow, car in front of me goes. And I sit there and I pause, and I'm waiting for that car, which that doesn't happen to me that often, that I'm at this turn left lane and a car in the straight lane like gives the blinker and wants to get in front of me. Doesn't happen that often. But I'm sitting there and I pause, and I'm looking at the car to my right in this go straight lane, and I'm sitting there paused, like, go. You pulled up, you want to get in front of me and go left, signal on. So I'm sitting there and I'm pausing, I'm waiting. I'm waiting. They didn't go, and so I'm like, okay, screw it. They're not going. So I start to go, and a Mack truck barreled through this intersection, ran the red light, and it was like almost like the dude's brakes weren't working or something, because he was going like 60 miles an hour barreling through this intersection, and I'm in my dad's like little car, and if I hadn't paused for that brief second to try and let that car get in front of me, 1,000,000% I would have that Mack truck that blew through the red light would have T-boned me. I would have been killed instantly, 100%.
Wow.
If that one little car hadn't pulled up and given that I want to get in your lane signal,
Or at the very least, your life is irrevocably changed.
I would have
You're
died.
not walking or whatever.
No.
Yeah.
I would have died. Dude,
Yeah.
this Mack truck barreled through this intersection 60 miles an hour, and it would have T-boned me. And when I went to go, it's not like I'm seeing the thing coming. When I went to go, I slammed on my brakes and it missed the hood of the car by inches. And it's like I think back to that all the time, and I'm like, man, even just to be sitting here right now is such a blessing, because there's so many different things in our lives that could have gone so drastically different. We're not here right now.
And those are just the ones we know about.
There's 1,000 of those things that like we never know about. I think about all the time when I pass a car wreck on the highway. It's like, man, if I would have left my house 5 minutes sooner, I could have been in that car wreck.
Right.
Just things that happen around us every day that we're not even aware of. But we'll kind of move on. I think that it is cool that we can talk about this stuff. It's a hunting podcast, but
I think it's what everything. I mean, I think every podcast about every subject should start on this type of stuff. Like, God should be at the forefront and in the middle of every conversation, because if you're not, you're just trying to sell a product or win Philo Nakia. Like, you're just trying to win and pound an idea home.
yeah,
Just prove to me that you're smarter than I am, or you're trying to. By the way, that's where we get the word Nike, like Nike shoes
didn't know that.
to win. So Philo Nakia. Anyway, sorry.
Didn't know that.
But that's, if we just get on here, it's like, here's what's going on with Spartan Forge.
Yeah,
we
no,
can spend
these
10
are,
minutes
these are
at
real
the end.
conversations.
We could spend 10 minutes at the end or right now on Spartan Forge, and I'd be content to do that. And even if we decide half of this podcast is for the birds and it's just been for us, and we're not gonna publish it, I don't care, because I feel like a ton of good has been done. Because I mean, also I'm going through my own depths right now with my own son, and you listened to it the other night on the phone, where I'm just trying to help him, and he refuses to listen to me because I'm his dad. And like, I genuinely want the best for him, like I do for you guys, and I'm having a hell of a time with it, because everything I say is dumb, and he's 15, and he's just not going to listen. I was talking to a military buddy of mine, actually a guy, a friend of Tim Kennedy's, and he said, I said, I'm having problems with my son because everything I say to him is just, you're dumb and I don't want to listen to you and you don't know anything. And he said, yeah, I've been there. But the silver lining is at least he's not a sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was prescient for me, because I've been really upset about how, it's not, I don't have the relationship with my son that I want right now. And we spend tons of time together. It's just, I'm dumb to him and I don't know how to get past it. Like, everything I say to him is, so I mean, and the reason I say all of this is because people might have been listening to this podcast and be like, oh, Bill just thinks he's got it all figured out. And it's like, no, it couldn't be the opposite. The more I learn about life and God, the more I realize I don't know anything.
Yeah.
The Stoics said Socrates was the smartest man in Greece because he admitted to knowing nothing. And I find as I've learned more things, more things I don't know.
Yeah, and we're not like us talking about this. Like, we're not trying to just like force feed anybody. Like, hey, you should believe this. It's just like we're just having conversations of what's relevant in our life right now. And it's like, if you're listening to this and you don't believe in any of this crap at all, if you're an atheist, like wherever you are, like that's totally fine. We hope that you've just listen to what we're saying, and that like know that we're just being real with each other, and that it's like we don't have this overarching agenda that we're all just trying to like fake stuff and just like pretend like we have it together. It's just us being real.
But if you are an atheist and you're listening to this podcast, I would say use the Bible as a pragmatic map. Just act it out.
Yeah.
Read it and act it out. Don't take any of the metaphysical. Don't take any of the supernatural. Love your enemies. Speak the truth whenever you can. Sacrifice. Don't live for today. Live for tomorrow or months or years from now. Lay down your life for a friend. When people look around and say, "Who will send?" or what can I do for other people? Live for other people. Do things for everyone who's around you. Just follow it pragmatically. Follow it like an atheist. Just follow the words and then let it speak to you and see what happens. And use that as your first test in what should be a multimodal. Nobody does univariate testing. You've taken a statistics class. You wouldn't test a philosophy with one variable. You wouldn't say this is the one thing that's going to prove this is right or wrong, right? You would look at it and test it as many ways as you can. I would just challenge those people to test it that one way. Strip the supernatural entity away. Strip away. Don't even act like it actually happened. Act like it was a book that was written yesterday and just follow it for a while and see what happens. I promise you your life will automatically improve. Anyway.
Well, changing subjects to hunting. I've been
what we all came here for.
I've been sipping on
some whiskey.
Some whiskey that I think has a lot of metal in it.
I poured that whiskey in there for Drew and I during elk for when we killed our first elk together, which I'm hoping we'll do this year. And it's been in there ever since. It's sat in my hunting bag all season.
And it stripped all the chrome off the interior of that flask.
I've been pouring it into this cup, and there's a lot of stuff in it.
Is there?
Oh, yeah. But it's good.
It's
delicious.
Don't get sick. I drank a glass, too, so if you get sick, I'm going to be right there with you.
How was that whole elk hunting trip?
Life-changing? I don't know how else to put it.
That's it. Let's move on.
I feel like
I'm just saying.
I feel like that could mean a lot.
Just.
Was that your first time elk hunting?
Yes.
And y'all are planning on going again this year?
We are going again this year, I
Yeah,
think.
we both drew the same tag again.
Yep.
Same area and all that?
I don't know about that.
Well, the tag that we applied for is you can hunt. It's a general tag, so you can hunt pretty much like half the state, half the units in the whole state. But we'll probably go back to the same.
Yeah.
It'd be stupid not to go back to the same area.
Where all the work and knowledge and
Yeah, and I would bet that those herds that we found are going to be in the same general area.
Yeah.
They may not be going down to the same alfalfa fields, but
Right.
like they're going to be somewhere.
they're gonna be somewhere.
Within a couple miles of that spot.
Do you remember when we were listening to that crazy Tucker Carlson interview with Obama?
Yes.
And then we got to that hill where we got out of the car and we both looked at it and we're like, we had been walking like 30,000 steps a day, whatever that is. And we were back down to like we were down to the last couple of days. And we drove to this place to check out this spot at BMA, and we both got out of the car and we're like, it's like 30,000 steps just to get to the base of this mountain that we're going to have to check out. I think they're there too.
Probably.
I think that's probably one of the places where
yeah,
they
I know
were.
what you're talking about now.
You remember now?
Yeah.
That crazy interview with that guy with Obama
Yes.
that we were listening to all the way driving there and to check it out. So it was awesome. It was life-changing. I have never had that experience outside of the military where I was with, again, two guys that I love, and we were out there having fun and, again, just focused on a mission and get engaged in dialogue and the truth and genuinely trying to help each other out and watching those dinosaurs scream.
Y'all also got at each other's throats a few times.
Yeah, for sure.
I've seen some of the videos
Yeah,
and heard some of the
what
stories.
what did I say about the tree?
The tree?
Yeah, it's got to, in order to grow
The
high,
roots.
the
You gotta
roots
have
got to
good
go low.
roots.
So, yes, we definitely made some roots go lower during that trip as well, which was awesome. I mean, it's great.
You made the statement earlier that's like that's how real friendships are formed.
It is. Exactly. That's true.
I mean,
And-
when you're hunting public land like that, it is difficult and it can be frustrating.
Yes, for sure.
And especially, I think this is true in a lot of the general units in Montana. These elk, just like whitetails, are super smart and they understand their surroundings and they know where private land boundaries are.
They've been trained.
And these elk were literally walking like on the property line. So one day they'd be 40 yards onto public, and then the next 3 days it'd be 40 yards onto private. Every day they go down to an alfalfa field and come back up to bed. And, like, we essentially just camped out on them for, 11 days?
And waited for
days?
them to slip up.
Yeah. But that's very frustrating because, I mean, we'd hike down to the same spot every morning, glass, watch them come up, and you could tell, there was 300 elk in that herd.
Yes.
And you could tell, like, if the first group didn't come up the drainage that was on public, the whole rest of the herd would follow that group onto the private, into the bedding area, and just, like, you can't do anything about it. And so those moments when they actually did come over to our side onto public, it's like it was go time.
Yes. And we haven't really talked about this since then, have we? Or at least not on a podcast.
No.
There are two things that strike me about what he just said. And the first thing was we were on them the whole time and never off them. Then the one day we decided, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, at least this is how I'm remembering it, is we decided to go get lunch for the first time and leave the area during lunch instead of, like, eating on the site or going back up to camp and reformulating a plan or going and listening for more bugling. We were just like, we're just going to detach, go get some of those cookies and go get lunch at like a burger place, or it was like a something in that town.
Yeah.
And just like get away from hunting for a minute. And then as we were driving back, we were like, well, let's just check that herd. And then we checked the herd and they were on the spot where we needed them to be. And then we made our move and went back up.
That was the first time we saw them over, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first thing that I thought was really interesting about that. I don't know what that means, but it strikes me, and I keep thinking about that. And then the second thing was, and I don't think the filming caught it, or maybe it was somewhere in the editing or whatever, but the weather was so strange the first time we got the shot on them, or we got to go after them. It was like sunny, with clouds in the distance, then the clouds hit, and then there was rain, and then there was lightning, and then there was hail, and then we were pinned down by these elk, and then there were like 3 rainbows, all in like, 40 minutes? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, again, I don't want to keep bringing up Jung, but Jung has this idea of synchronicity, which is kind of like when something happens, all of the elements and everything aligns. And it's like essentially God telling you that you're doing the right thing, you're in the right place, and great things are going to happen. And I either looked at you or I looked at Thomas and said, we're killing an elk today. I can feel it. And then when all that crazy stuff started happening, I was like, oh, man, it's happening. I had no doubt in my mind we were killing that day. And all of that stuff coming together. When you watch the video, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, there was a lot more going on in the elements and stuff like that than maybe we got into the video. Because I don't think we showed the hail even, did we?
I mean, by the time it hailed, I don't even remember what was in the edit, but the time it was hailing was, were we up on top of the hill the first?
It hailed
stop?
twice, right when we were about to get into the woods.
I think
and then it started hailing again while we were pinned down by those
when
cows.
We were pinned down.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were basically either running or like laying flat on our face.
Yeah,
it was
so
kind of
there
hard
wasn't
to
a
film.
whole,
That was
going
intense
on.
too, like being pinned down by those cows.
Well, that's the other thing. Is just like if you're watching this and you understand, and you watch hunting stuff, just understand there's like what you were watching is like maybe 5%.
Yeah,
It's a fraction.
Maybe.
it's like people saying, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that in that situation." Like, dude, you have no clue
The
what's
whole
going on.
context.
And it's like, I promise you, dude, if you had just watched everything that happened, we'd be here for 5 hours.
Yeah,
Okay, like we got to put this in 20 minutes. So it's
Yeah.
like it just appreciate, and I'm guilty of it too. When I watch something I'm like, I don't really like the way that went or whatever. It's like it is so hard to be effective and also tell the story. And
Yeah.
so like when you watch something, whether it's hunting or whether it's motocross or a movie even, it's like you are watching an absolute fraction
Snippet
of what it took to get there.
I appreciate the people that, because like we try to tell stories, and sometimes it's longer than what a normal hunting video is that's just showing highlights. Our episodes could be 10 times longer with the amount of footage, but I appreciate the people that actually stick it out from start to finish and try to absorb the whole story, because there are a lot of times you'll get a comment that's like, say some stupid example. Say it's I don't know, I use this trail camera, and you say it like 4 or 5 times throughout the episode, someone will say in the comments like, "What trail camera do you use?" And not specific to that, but what I'm saying is like, people skip through so much that's like you can put all of these important details in it, and feel like you've highlighted that well, and at the end of it, people miss it because everyone's got TikTok brain these days, and they just they skip.
And I wasn't even talking. Well, I hope you weren't taking an offense to the edit, because I assume you did the edit, or maybe
I
you did.
Not.
But all I was trying to say is, being in that moment felt nothing like what I watched in the video.
Oh no!
And just like all of the things coming together, I just felt like it was for sure going to happen. And then, I remember, I think it was you who told me, don't read the comments.
Don't read the comments.
And I knew for sure I wasn't going to read the comments on that one.
You did, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Okay. Good.
I asked my wife to take a peek at them, and she's like, "Yeah, they're not good." And then I messaged Lee and said, "I'm not looking at the comments," and he's like, "I just did. They're not good." And I think, one of the things that we couldn't include in the video, because obviously that guy was kind of like off his rocker or whatever, or not off his rocker, but he was a little crazy. Not crazy. I don't know what the word you want to use this. It was difficult to predict what was going to be said by this man that we were interacting with at any time that was off camera. But he owned land adjacent to that place. And when we had looked for that elk for, 2 days when I shot him, or a day and a half at least, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was at least a day and a half, 2 days or something like that. That elk ended up getting, or he at least told us that the elk had ended up getting killed in the alfalfa field down there or something like that a few days later. So there were all of these people in the video that were saying like, punch your tag or whatever like that, or something that my wife had told me. I didn't quite understand it. What she was telling me was being said, because I didn't read it.
Yeah, they're like, you barely looked for that elk after you shot him, and
It's
you
like,
immediately started hunting another
We
one.
spent at least 24 hours looking for that elk. I'm saying time looking, not
Yeah.
sleeping, like 2 days. Like it wasn't until the third day after that I really got back into it again, and then I wasn't even sure I was going to. And then I thought about it, and then when that guy was like, that elk was killed in that alfalfa field, then I was like, all right, I'm hunting again. But that, again, speaks to people not having and I get it, because I do it too, just like you said. Like,
it's hard
you
not
don't
to
watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
You don't know it. And I don't feel it's necessary also for me to have certain parts in a video just to feed my ego or to make myself feel better, because ultimately I don't really care, and I won't read the comments. I've successfully not done that since then, and I'm never going to. The only thing that I'll do is I'll have my wife take a look, and if someone's like, I'm trying to get a hold of Bill, or there's something wrong with the app, I'll tell her to respond for me and say like, here's his email, or do this, or X, Y, and Z. And that's the only thing that is done. But I say, don't tell me what's in there. I don't want to know. And I think it was you who told me to do that the first time. I was like, look, if Lee's telling me not to read them, then I really need to not be reading them.
Been down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like and I struggle with this, and it's been such a journey from the time I met these guys and growing up hunting and consuming hunting. I hate the word content because it feels cheap. I really do. I hate it. But
you hate it because you don't feel like it encapsulates.
I don't think it does justice.
Yeah, okay.
We are not. I hate the idea of taking this thing that we love and commoditizing. I don't like this. When you say content, it feels cheap to me, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate it. Like, I'm tearing up right now. Like,
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah.
And but it is very hard to take the experience of what it took to get where we were, whether it was the elk hunt, whether it was you chasing Kimbo. No matter who you are and where you hunt or what you do, it is so hard to tell a story and do it justice. In all reality, it's impossible. You can't encapsulate what it felt like to be pinned down, held on, rainbows, 2 spikes at 10 yards for 30 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
you can't,
That's the whole episode.
you can't, you can't.
That 30
bottle
minutes we
that
were laid
up.
down was the whole episode, right?
And then you also cannot capture the pain that it feels like to be.
I was dying.
Yeah.
When we had to record that, I never told you guys this, but it's the truth, and I said it to my wife actually. I gained so much more respect for you guys having to sit there and explain away this hunt with a pit in my stomach, knowing that there's an injured animal out there, and knowing the work that was following and everything that was going to happen afterwards. And like, then you go back and kind of re-examine every video you've ever seen where someone's been through that before. Mm-hmm. That was freaking tough. Like, because I was broken up over it. Like, all of the work. And also I kept thinking about Drew, like my friend who's taking me elk hunting for the first time and is running, and you who's filming, running every mile with me trying to get after these things. And I get to the moment of truth and just quick quarter-second mess up, and it's changed the look of everything. Not because I didn't kill the animal, it was because I made a bad decision in a split second of time. You know, there's no give backs.
No, that's just life, and that's hunting.
Yeah,
and that's what sucks about being authentic.
Yeah,
is that it hurts.
I was talking to somebody in the industry after that, who said, I know dudes that film this content, same thing that you guys are doing, film these masterful displays of theatrical prowess and prose that
see, he has the vocabulary.
Yeah. But has all of does all of these things. They will never show them not making the shot.
Yeah.
And that kind of blew my socks off, because that would be like having this podcast and not discussing the problems that we all have, and just sitting here and talking about our perfect worlds and how everything's going great.
Everything is, yeah.
You know, that you're not doing anyone a service. So sorry to cut you off on that.
No,
I felt like
100%.
I had to hit that, because
I agree.
That blew my mind, to think that there are people out there that don't ever put that out there. It's like, oof.
But that's what I have so much respect for these two guys, because like I am not. It is so hard to bear that on your shoulders, and that's why he told you not to read the comments. Is because like humans were not, over the last few hundred years, we're not programmed to receive that much influence or feedback from that many people,
right?
Good or bad. And so there's no playbook for doing this. There's no playbook for storytelling.
We're writing it right now.
Yeah.
People are writing it right now.
And it's like, when you're a kid growing up, you're allowed to make mistakes. Oh, that's good. You're figuring out. When you're an adult, no. All of a sudden, you're not allowed to make mistakes. All of a sudden, you're not allowed to be authentic, because how dare you?
Right.
Yeah, there's no playbook on how to handle that kind of feedback on social media. Mm-hmm. That was a huge struggle for us, but I know me personally, like, you read this stuff and it's like you can't not let it affect you. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I've almost gone through the rodeo enough now where, like, there was no playbook. There was no like, hey, this is kind of how you handle it. But it's like the only way that I feel like I've learned how to handle it now is just have just been through it. And that's kind of the price you pay for being authentic, is if you're not real, people don't learn like they do from what they're seeing on these perfect situations. Like, if you hit a deer back in the liver and you explain, for example, like you just explain the situations of why you waited this long. Stuff like that, as opposed to staging like, oh, we walked up right on him, we waited an hour, he went 20, 30 yards, and there he is, great. And it's like, that's not what happened.
Right.
People don't learn from that, and so it's like there's so many lessons to be learned from showing the realness of hunting. Now, there is a cost to showing that, because you open yourself to being vulnerable and having people pick at that stuff.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that being real always outweighs the potential negatives to having someone view like you did something wrong or did something the way they wouldn't do it, or
But the opposite to that is, and people are like, I'll read comments on your guys' videos where people are like, why would you put that online? Like, I've seen someone say, like, why would you put that out there? It's like, I don't know how many 100,000 people could maybe learn from that and not make the same mistake. Mm-hmm. Why would you not want that out there? Why would you, like, people can learn to not make that same mistake. Like, he waited that long and it ended up in a liver shot, and then he chased the deer too early, and now he's telling people about it, so that people get to learn about it.
Yeah.
You know.
I think the standpoint some of those people are coming from is as if we're giving ammunition to like anti-hunters and showing the cruelty side of hunting. If you wound an animal and they have, they suffer. Most people probably aren't coming at from that standpoint. They just want to talk crap and get their 2 cents in there. But
that's a dialogue worth having, but I still disagree with it.
yeah, I think for me it's less like the external feedback and comments and crap talking, and more like, and especially on like a elk hunt where you're out there. I drove 33 hours to get to Montana. Like,
Yeah.
you put in for the tags, you plan the hunt, you get all your gear together, like you get all that stuff dialed. Like, it is a long process.
Yep.
And a lot of work goes into it, and a lot of time and a lot of thought. And ultimately, it comes down to that one split-second moment.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to even have it.
Right.
And before that moment, nothing else matters.
Nope.
The only thing that matters is executing that shot and making the right decisions in that moment. And that's super hard to do. And when you don't succeed in that moment, it's like, God, like, why did I just waste so much time
Right.
to
It's
just
heavy.
screw it up
It's heavy.
Yep.
in the one thing that I should be able to like practice and control?
Ugh.
And it's more just like disappointment in myself that I should be better, versus people saying like, "Oh, you suck." It's like, I don't really care what
Yeah.
you're saying. It's more the pressure that I put on myself.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my biggest problem with it was that my friends were out there with me and had spent all this time being with me and doing this and helping me and teaching me and tolerating my dumb ass. And and then that moment of truth where I should be able to deliver that arrow. If I can do anything, I should be able to do that. And then not doing it. But also, and you said it, and I think it's right, is you also don't want to let yourself down. That's truly what I care about the most, is that I don't disgrace myself or violate my own virtue, like what I believe is to be important. And so when I do the meta-analysis on that hunt, I didn't do that. I didn't disgrace myself. I didn't execute, but I didn't execute not because I was trying to be wrong or do something for the wrong reasons or whatever. Like, my head was in the right space. I was trying to do the right thing. I just didn't. That's all you can do. Right.
Be honest between you two.
Okay.
Was there ever a moment, even if it was just a small percentage of you, that thought we're about to fight?
I thought Drew was going to kill me at one point and leave me on the mountain.
In which moment would this have been?
How would I have killed you? Like, what would
I
have
don't
different-
know. But I was like, oh, man, I really angered Drew there.
No, the only time we would have fight was when we were arguing over which way was east.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Which would have been like,
Tell the story. It's funny.
okay, so you got to correct me if I don't recall that right, but we had just gotten back to the camp, to the tent or whatever.
Yeah.
We had set up base camp, and Bill and I had
We all still think we're right on the situation, so
Oh,
this
yeah.
could spur the argument again.
Bill and I had witnessed the sun coming up in the same spot.
Yeah. Well,
Every
Drew was still
morning.
sleeping. No, I'm joking.
So we both knew which way was east, and which was over this particular hill.
Crazy.
But they had gotten confused and thought that it was rising in this direction, but really it was rising over here.
Did anyone
So
just
they
not
thought
have
east was a different.
Actually,
I got a friend who made this app. No, sorry.
Did you not use the
But-
app? Like, I feel like figuring out your direction shouldn't be that hard.
Well, keep going.
I forget how even we had said it or how it got the conversation got started, but basically Drew said that the sun was going to come up on this side or whatever, and he and I both looked at each other and we were like, "It's over here, big dog." And he's like, "No, you're both
You even
wrong."
said big dog back then, too. I remember that. That's great.
I was like, "No, it's this way." And then we were like, "Okay, yeah, we'll just let you be right." And then the conversation just kept going. Like, we kept bringing it back up throughout the night.
But it was heated.
Oh,
Like, we
yeah.
were getting, like, you
Well,
know.
everyone's tired at that point.
Yeah.
We're all frustrated. The elk aren't cooperating and everything like that. So
Yeah, none of them wanted to die.
Yeah.
Again, I asked,
Yeah.
was there ever a point where you actually thought like we're gonna fight?
No.
No, I didn't ever think we were gonna throw down, but I definitely think like, whenever your dad gets mad at you, and or a teacher that you respect, and then they get mad in a moment, then they catch themselves and they're just like, I'm disappointed. More than anything, like that feeling.
Yeah. Exhibit A.
That's what I got from Drew. Like at first he was like raving mad, and then he's like, and he should have been like I made it. What you didn't see in the video, God bless you, Thomas, was we had stalked and put an awesome stock. I think
This was the fourth
last
quarter.
day. No, not the fourth
This
quarter.
isn't the
was,
sun rising thing.
we're in the
anymore.
2 minute.
No.
We're in the
We're
2 minute
overtime.
warning.
No, we're overtime.
We're overtime, but
Yeah.
we're at the goal line. We are literally 15 or 25 yards or something like that. How far away were we from that bedded elk?
Probably 25.
25 yards
Yeah.
from a bedded elk, and we were so close, but it was thick. And all we could see is his eye and his antlers.
Shoot like a shooter.
A shooter, a for
Yeah.
sure shooter. Like I think he might have been that bigger one that we had seen earlier. He was over 300, I think, right?
I never got a good look at him. I mean, I think he
But
was.
I think he was that one that was coming from the other side. I thought he was one that was coming from the other side or something. He was big. It was big. You could see on the ground the thing was massive, and you could catch like sides of his antlers from each side. It was big. It was a shooter for sure. For me, for sure. And we were a bunch of Indians. Like we got within 25, like with a camera guy, 2 dudes. We got within 25 yards, surrounded by cows, played the wind perfectly. I mean, we were right in there. It was cool, and it was awesome. And I was just like, again, I was like, it's going to happen. This is happening. And we got set up, and Drew's like, hey, I'm going to fall back to over by this tree. I might do some cow calls in a little bit, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, perfect. He's still pulling for me, right?
So you're hunting.
I'm hunting.
Okay.
And, right? Yeah, I'm hunting because
Yeah.
you fell back. And Thomas is sitting right next to me, and I had my arrow knocked, and I wouldn't say a raghorn, bigger than a raghorn, popped over the hill and looked right at us. And I drew back and had him dead to rights for what, a minute? Or 30 seconds?
No, so I think what happened was we saw.
Did we see him
We saw
first?
the bedded elk. I think the wind swirled. The bedded elk kind of ran off.
Well, before that, though, that raghorn came
No,
up.
and then the raghorn came up.
Oh, it was after the raghorn came up?
It was right after.
See how I screw these
the
things up?
raghorn's coming in, and at this point you're like, I'll shoot any bull that I get a shot at. 'cause
Illegal.
It's our
Yeah.
last afternoon, and he's coming in, and we were like expecting you to draw as he's coming in before he looks our way, and then he stops like broadside at 30 yards, and you still haven't drawn, and then we get pinned down. And we were
Is the big bull elk still over
no,
by us?
he had already spooked.
He had already spooked.
Yeah.
The cows got.
Well,
her
we didn't get
win.
to the part where he spooked the big bull. That's my 7th screw up of the day. So anyway, we're pinned. We're down on the ground, and there's this big bull, and Thomas looks at me and says, "I just felt the wind on my neck."
Mm-hmm.
And then my heart sunk because that means that all of a sudden the wind's going towards them now. And it wasn't like 10 seconds after he said that, every freaking elk that side of Montana got up and like felt like a stampede. I don't know how many were there. There were a lot because it was a lot. Like a lot of noise. All of them got up and took off. And then I guess that's when the raghorn came and came over. And I had the thought in my head, I'm not going to shoot that raghorn. But maybe I just didn't pull quick enough. Maybe I was going to. I don't remember. The thought in my head was I wasn't going to. But he was like 25 yards away, something like that. Not far.
He's close.
And then Drew was like, all right, well, I've put this joker on enough elk. I'm going to shoot something. So he's up by this pine tree.
Hang on.
Okay.
You're forgetting some stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you end up drawing on the raghorn while he's looking at us, and he spooks. And then while that's going on, I can hear 2 bulls bugling coming in from behind us, like up in this meadow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up on that pine tree about 15 yards behind y'all, and I'm like, once that raghorn spooks, I'm like, Bill, come up here. They're coming from behind us. you and Thomas come up to the pine tree. These two bulls are probably I think they're at 70 yards, and they're coming across, and we're on the opposite side of the tree, so they can't see us, obviously. Just waiting for them to come around the side of the trees to where we'll have at least the most broadside and, like, closest shot. It was still going to be a pretty long shot.
it was like 60, I think, or 50.
And they stop literally, like, they need to take 2 more steps to give you a broadside shot, and they stopped. And then I think we're, like, moving around a little bit, or, like, you're kind of stuck out in the open. We're just not in a great spot. It's one tree out in the open. And they turn around and start going back the other way, and I'm like, I'm just going to shoot this elk now because there's no way that you're going to be able to get around the tree without spooking them. And I get the full draw on this thing, and, like, he stops at 65 yards, and he looks over, and I'm just, like, I have tension on the string, and then I see Bill.
Do you have a clear shot at vitals?
Yeah. I see Bill sneaking around the edge of the tree. He
Oh my God.
To be fair, he couldn't see me because I was pretty much like 180 on the other side of the tree from him. And I'm like, Bill, stop, don't move.
The mental image I have in my head of you just like just popping around this.
I might as well have been
guys?
opening a candy bar.
And
And
so
then
the elk barks and they run off, and that's probably the closest to fighting that we got.
And that was kind of how it all
and then
ended.
there was like expletive cuss word, Bill, you can't expletive cuss word. What in the expletive cuss word were you? Why did you expletive cuss word there? I was at full expletive cuss word draw.
It wasn't that bad.
Thomas.
I was about to, that was a little exaggerated.
Oh, okay,
was
maybe
like,
it was.
It was like 2, and then there was silence.
Yeah.
Oh, the silence.
And then
is
it
the
was like
worst.
you're sitting at the kitchen table and Mom just got slapped by Dad.
Well, then
And we're all like,
yeah. After that, then he just started going down the hill, and he was like, "We're just gonna go sit at the rock," and we just sat at the rock, and it was, bro. I'm talking about you talking about like cutting the tension with a butter knife. I'm talking about you could have cut it with a brick. It was thick.
Oh man. Well,
Yeah.
now y'all are even tighter because of those.
Yes.
So you can laugh about it now.
oh, for sure. For sure.
I'm still pissed.
I've got 2 more things I want to do with you.
Yes.
Well, really 3.
yes.
I've
got all night.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
How much?
we
battery
only
do we
get so many opportunities to talk like this, so I want to take full
I was going to say
advantage of
one
it.
more thing before we move on. With just that last hunt, that sneaking up on that herd, that's a whole video.
Mm-hmm.
Like with everything that happened there, just there, forget like what happened in the valley before where I shot that one in the butt. I'm just saying that final day, just how we went up, came back, went around, went through, across that. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that in itself is a video.
Yeah.
If you ask me. Sorry, go ahead.
So I've got 3 things total.
Oh, man.
The one is going to be I want to end with you showing us Cyber Scout and giving your impersonations. But the 2 things I want to cover before we get to that, because you're also going to have a little Easter egg at the end for people that have made it this far.
Yes.
So hang into that, or hang on there for that. But the first thing I want to do is I want you to tell the story of the bus driver guy.
Which story?
The bus driver guy.
The hater, the sequin hater.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay. Oh, man. It's funny. Like,
Have
I've
you
told,
heard this story,
I
Thomas?
think so.
Have you? Oh, shoot.
It's the guy who lives next to you, doesn't he?
Yeah, yes. Which I think the jig is up. I think he's figured it out because now he just doesn't look at me anymore. So my bus, none of you have been in my house yet.
This is like September of 23 last year.
Yeah.
Before
when did you kill
Kimbo.
Kimbo?
Kimbo was October, so it was prior to that.
This was like a few weeks before that.
Okay.
This starts a couple of weeks before that. So our house, the one awesome thing about the house that we are in right now is I can throw a football at the bus stop where my daughter gets picked up on the bus, like from my back deck. And so for the first few months, I'd walk her to the bus stop, and now I just walk out to the front sidewalk. She crosses the road. I watch her walk to her bus stop. Bus picks her up. She takes off. It's really, for parents that take kids to school, it's the cream of the crop for bus stops. It's so good, like getting my daughter on the bus because we can listen for it to come. It's just super close. But anyway, I was walking her there at first, and one of the days I was walking to the bus stop, I had a Seek 1 hoodie on, and there's this guy that just had like, you know, the jeans with the like white, like, you know,
The
faded
vintage
jeans,
wash.
tint wash with the doilies. You know, your grandma used to put like lamps on a doily. You had like the doilies. This guy's fuming right now if he's listening to this, by the way. Too. They're not doilies, but like the, you know, fabric on the pants and stuff, and then like the tight shirt, and, you know, in shape, pretty good in shape guy, and he's got the truck with the keep hammering sticker on the back of it, and which is fine. I actually, you know, I'm a big fan. He actually kills elk, so that's cool. So he's like, so you like those Seek 1 guys, do you? And I'm like, yeah, I think they're pretty cool. I enjoy watching their videos. And he's like, how much you think they pay for them deer? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, those guys kill like 170, 200-inch deer 10 times a year. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I'm like, oh, really? And he's like, dude, I own like 400 acres out in Iowa. This guy still lives kitty corner across the street from me. So I'm saying this like he's writing it down. He's going to pin it to my door like Martin Luther one night, and that'll be the story of me. But anyway, he's like, you know they pay for those deer, right? And I'm like, what? And he's like, dude, 30 grand, easy. Like, you find out like a deer somewhere, and you just tell the guy you're going to pay him 30 grand. You kill that deer in their backyard. And I was like, that doesn't seem like a very productive model. Like, it's from the economic side of the house, because, you know, you have to knock on many doors to get access to one deer. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to give him all 30 grand? Yeah. And he's like, well, I mean, he figures it out. You know, he's paying people for access to these deer. And I'm like, well, are we in 30 grand land still? Like, what is he paying for access to these deer? And we go back and forth about it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think they. And my wife is looking at me the whole time. Like I had just, where had I just been with one of you two? I'd just been with the weekend before, or 2 weekends before, or something like that.
It would have been right after elk.
Oh yeah, it would have been right after elk. That's what it was. Yeah, I had just gotten back from elk hunting with Drew
for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks earlier, and my wife's looking at me like, are you gonna say something? Well, with all of the people in this area, see, now I'm really letting the cat out of the bag. I always tell people that so in DC,
This is my favorite part.
in DC, it is all about your job. That is how you are measured. It doesn't matter if you're Gandhi or you know, what was the saint? What was her name in the 80s? The saint. What's her name? Mother Teresa. Doesn't matter if you're Mother Teresa. If you're not a high-paid executive in the federal government, or, you know, some big Boeing business owner or something, they don't care what you do. So I don't like playing that game. So I always tell people that I blow up bridges for a living. So at any party that we're at, anything, like my wife and I'll go to these dinner parties or something like that, and she'll always get mad. Because I'll be like, yeah, blow up bridges for a living. Like, what? I'm like, you know, shape charges on a bridge. They got to take the bridge down because they got to build a new one, and you can't just sit there with a Sawzall and take it apart. So they call me in. I bring some high-power explosives. And
of all of the occupations you could have chosen, why that one?
Because because I piss people off, and people would always be like, "You're blowing up bridges." So for me, it's a double entendre.
Well, I feel like there's a little part of him that would actually enjoy that job.
Yeah, and that I would actually
knows exactly how to do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken breaching. I've done breaching classes and stuff, so I have enough knowledge about it to say things that
makes sense.
People think I know what I'm talking about. My wife always gets super frustrated with me, which she should, because she's got to play the game that, or we need to look like a couple of psychos if she corrects me, and I'm just like, no, my bridge. What is she talking about? I blow bridges for a living. Get a little ashamed just because I make minimum wage blowing up bridges. And so my wife's sitting there like, are you going to say something? Like, this guy's talking crap about Lee. I'm like, no, and Lee wouldn't want me to say anything. Like I'm not stopping this guy. Like we need to keep this going and keep this going. This happens at least a couple of times. I don't remember how many times. Maybe only one or two more times where I'd see him at the bus stop. But
so it's like a morning thing, like or
in the morning I'd always see him. His wife is always picking up when I go in the afternoon. He's usually his wife.
So you're seeing him like every morning.
Pretty often, yeah. But I mean, there would be a new Seek One video or whatever, and then he would say something, and then we get to Kimbo Land, like near Kimbo, and this wasn't much farther after, maybe a week or two after, and I'm walking out to the bus stop, and like from my door to the bus stop, like I said, it's like 70 yards
This
or
is
something
right
like
after
that.
I killed
60
Kimbo?
yards, right after.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure I'd seen the video yet. Like, it was that recent. Like, I think you guys might have dropped the video that night of, and I just hadn't gotten through it because it was a pretty long video.
We probably just posted the pictures on Instagram.
Something like that. And he's standing at the bus stop, like, arms up in the air. Like, what? What? Like, what? And my wife's like, oh, man, he's upset. And
It's like in front of kids and stuff.
children everywhere. Like when you see the layout of how it is, there's like a field that the kids all play in. Like it's great. All the kids get there and they play to wait for the bus stop. Football, all kinds of stuff. It's actually really awesome because they don't get enough of that in school, honestly. So he's like, what now? What? How much you think you paid for that deer? And he's like yelling from across. And so I get there, and I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, I thought something was wrong. Like, I wasn't clear to me what he was upset about even because he was so upset that I thought there's no way he's upset about a dead deer. Like, he's upset right now. So he's like, hey, so that your boys at Seek One there took like a 260-inch deer the other night. How much do you think you paid for that one? And I was like, I think he knocks on doors, dude. Like, I think if that deer was killed somewhere and it was poached, or if it was whatever, flown in, like some people seem to think, like, that would make the national news. Like, that guy who killed that deer in Virginia by the graveyard,
Yeah.
you can't throw a stick without hitting somebody who knows about that. I heard people talking about that at a Texas roadhouse. So, like, that news travels fast on that stuff. There's nothing more salacious than – there's two things that happen when somebody poaches a deer. One, people get to talk about other people making mistakes and not themselves. Two, people get to crap on hunters, right? So that stuff spreads like wildfire, especially in like uber liberal DC. So he's talking all this crap, and I don't remember all the stuff that he was saying, but he was demeaning me. He got to like, oh, Bill, the bridge blower up guy thinks that Seek One just goes and knocks on a door. There's just a 230-inch deer in the backyard, and they're just going to go back there and kill it. Is that how it gets done, Bill, the bridge blower up guy? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. Like, and he's like, I own 400 acres of blah, 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 and such and such and such. And I don't kill any deer over 160 in like Iowa or something like that. And I was like, well, do you kill them before they become 220 inches? And then he's like not happy with that answer. So I was like, all I remember was like, Bill the bridge blower up guy thinks that so my wife was just like looking at me like, you got to drop the bomb on him. I'm like, no, that's the last thing that you should do. Huh?
The bomb
that
you
I should
us.
know you guys. Yeah, that I know you guys, or that Drew married us. and so we go back to the house, and she's like, well, why didn't you say anything in that moment? Like, you could have slammed him. I'm like, no, in 3 months when he's like listening to this podcast or sees me in another video or the doe hunt or something, he's been suspiciously quiet with me since like the doe hunt. Or maybe somewhere before that where I've not been hearing from him as much. Maybe he just doesn't like me anymore. Could be. But he's not been saying a ton. But to me, the best of it is, like, let this slow thing burn. Like, eventually he's going to see me in a video at some point, maybe even this tack video, and then be like,
we may have to do an updated podcast after this one launches because I feel like the story isn't over with this guy.
well, yeah,
He's just going to be at the bus stop and be like, I heard the podcast.
yeah, well, now what? I didn't call you Bill the bridge blower up guy. No, you did. But the other thing, too, is that I was thinking about is my wife and I wanted when we first got there, and now I'm really going to – well, the cat's already out of the bag. I don't like any of my neighbors. Like any of them. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. There's one Filipino couple to our west that I like, but the rest of them are all just insufferable. and we're gonna move out of there soon, so I don't care. But we were thinking about having a house party at first before I figured out that I hated everybody, and I was like, I'm gonna buy Lee the ticket just to come and be at the housewarming party,
Just to have that guy
and then when
walk
they
in.
walk from across the street, he'll just be like. And Lee can be like, "You want to hunt in the back?"
if I come to visit you, I'll knock on his door.
Oh man, ask for permission.
Yes.
But there's no deer back there.
Just
But
come with 30 grand in a suitcase.
See,
that's awesome.
They'd be like at the bus stop, like, I see, I told you, he knocked on my door with a briefcase of cash.
Yeah, Lee Ellis came by yesterday. Now what?
I love that story.
It's a good one.
The next thing I want to touch, and then we'll end this with Spartan Forge and updates and Cyber Scout and everything going on there, is I said earlier in this podcast that you tend to say things that spark some conversation or that just kind of get people fired up.
I don't know where this is going. It's making me nervous.
It's not a big deal. It's the line that you dropped in the Hunter podcast about if you've killed bucks in PA in the mountains, that you can kill deer anywhere in the
I
country.
said PA or Western Maryland. Yes.
And how fired up people got at you about that.
I got more hate mail. Did I show you it? Is that what I did?
No, you just briefly
my
mentioned some of it.
Instagram. I think I got. Now, mind you, I'll give a sense of scale here. Most podcasts, I might get like 3 or 4 messages about it. I think on that podcast alone, just about that comment, I think there were something like 70 comments on the video of me saying it. I could look it up. I think it was it was at least 40, maybe, and I think 70. It was more like 70, and probably 150 messages of people being like, "You've obviously never hunted in Florida. Come down to Florida, and we'll see if you think Pennsylvania's tough." Or like, "You've never been to North Carolina." One guy said in the video, "You've never been to North Carolina." Nope. Spent most of my adult life in North Carolina. I've hunted at Fort Bragg and at Boone, North Carolina. And then at the bottom, good on him, because most guys wouldn't have done this. He was like, "I'm sorry, man. I wasn't trying to come off like a jerk or whatever." I'm like, "Well, you kind of came off like one on the top of this comment." But at least actually, in all honesty, at least he said like, "Hey, dude, yeah, obviously you've hunted some places around here." All I was saying about Pennsylvania and Western, and I wasn't saying you can't prove yourself or that you're not a good hunter that can hunt anywhere if you kill consistently in other states. All I'm saying is, and I think you guys could vouch for this, having hunted in PA, like it's sparse, open territory where you really got to have your act together. And if you're someone like a Johnny Stewart that defies logic and reason in these areas and is just always pulling big bucks out of these mountains, you probably can do it most places. Mm-hmm. I have to be able to speak to my own observations. I don't have observations in Florida. I've never hunted in Maine, so I can't make these all-inclusive statistical, I can't assign a statistical p-value to the predictability of killing big bucks across state and how that scales to everywhere in the U.S. Like, it's impossible. All I know is if you meet and I didn't say all of Maryland, I meant Western Maryland up in the mountains, which is essentially PA, or PA up in the mountains. If you are a guy who's got 9 straight years of 140 pluses, you're a stud. Mm-hmm. And you can also be in North Carolina with 9+ years of big deer. You're a stud. Or Lee, where we had these things in the military called chaos drills, and I kind of mentioned one earlier today. They're pretty cool, but one of the things that they do is they'll have you in a classroom environment. They'll throw a bag over your head. Then they'll bring you. This was more than the military. Other organizations would participate in this, but it's not important. But then they'd take the bag off your head, and they just wanted to see how well you reasoned yourself through certain situations. And one of the ones that I really enjoyed, or that I thought was pretty cool, is you'd end up at like a border checkpoint where you don't speak the language of the people at the border checkpoint, and you're in a vehicle, and there might be like money in the back of the trunk or something like that, and they've got guns, and you've got to reason yourself out of it, or they'll take it off and you're in the car and they just start firing at you, like shooting guns at you, and then you got to pop it in reverse and get out of Dodge.
Like real bullets?
No. But you're just supposed to react correctly. You know what I'm saying? At that time, I think it was like PP7 rounds, or it was like, sorry, my contact is killing me, or was killing me. PP7 rounds, or maybe it was paintballs. I don't remember. But then you break contact and get out of dodge. And Lee, the reason I tell all that is because I fervently believe that you could throw a bag over Lee's head and drop him somewhere, and the deer would come and find him. So, like, you just drop him off somewhere, and I think I smell Lee Ellis. I wonder if he needs help. And it's like, hey, Herb, have you seen your head? What? You've got massive antlers, dude. Yeah? I smell Lee. I think he needs help. Dude, don't. He will kill you. No. No. Have you seen the videos? No. And then this like 170-inch buck just travels across Kansas to Lee in this like cut okra field, and Lee stabs him in the neck. I'm just saying. I'm trying to be funny, but also you kill everywhere you go. You kill in North Dakota. You kill in Kansas. You kill in Ohio. You kill in Georgia. You kill in. You shot that freaking PA buck. That was ridiculous. That shot was ridiculous. Were you there for that?
He filmed it.
Yeah. Was that shot ridiculous? Mm-hmm. Was that awesome? Mm-hmm. It was in the middle of PA. I'm just saying there are guys that get it done no matter where they go. And that to me is transfer state knowledge that's been perfected. And you're probably operating at a level where you're listening to your gut in a way that's in sync with whatever you want to call it, nature, evolution, God, whatever it is, instinct. And when you are able to listen to that and tap into it, you'll be successful. The best person that I know about that does that is Johnny Stewart.
He is a deer.
He would make a deer appear out of nowhere through sheer will and then kill it. Like it would just come out of the ground slowly, like in front of him, and then he'll bam, and then it'll fall over dead. Because I've seen him do it. And I've seen him find deer in places where I don't expect him to find deer. Or I've been with him where he's like, I smell does. And then does jump up. And if you don't believe me, my son was there with me. Like, we're picking up shed antlers. And he's like, you smell that, Bill? And I was like, what? I smell doe. I'm like, you smell doe? He's like, I smell doe. And we took like 20 more steps, and he jumped. He couldn't have seen them the way that this hill was because you had to go up and around. But the wind was coming off. I think he probably smelled them. He called it. My son and I both watched them get up and run away. Couldn't have seen them where we were. So
it's like he senses their energy.
I don't know what it is.
Because Drew and I have scouted with him before, and we're just moping around the woods, and he is in this like crazy element where he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's been here.
Oh, that 8-point
buck.
buck.
I'm like, I hadn't seen a deer track or rub for a mile.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he's been in here for sure.
And he'll also he might be embarrassed when I say this. Maybe I shouldn't say this. No, I'll say it.
Go ahead.
He'll not know what the name of a plant is. And he'll like have his own name for it. And he'll be like, well, they eat those ones there. I call them the blue bush. They eat that, but not till like February. So you don't hunt blue bushes. But if you want to go with one of these, like the green 6-bush, they'll eat those in January. And I'll be like, the fern? Yeah, January, Bill. I'm like, okay. But he hasn't gone out and read the books. He's not fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's all
excuse me, I'm
own
sorry, I just swore.
Doesn't matter. It's all his own experience.
Yeah, and he's just learning on his own, and it's based off of all of his time sitting on a tree stand and just watching deer. He didn't get a mail order DVD. He wasn't like, watching the videos or whatever. He just spent an insane amount of time in the woods, and he doesn't forget, and he trusts his gut.
He's a fascinating whitetail hunter. Just to learn from and be around and ask questions and hear his, because I've never experienced someone at that level of trying to put themselves in the position of in the mind of that deer.
Mindset of the animal.
Yeah. It's actually crazy.
And I think that those guys existed a few thousand years ago, in some form, and were uber successful, and that instinct he is tapped into. He must. You just look at his deer camp and in PA, those are just his PA deer. You go to his deer camp in Ohio, there's more deer there. You go to his house in south of Pittsburgh, there are deer in there that make your jaw drop. He's just been doing this since Moses was in short pants, and he continues to do it.
I don't understand that reference.
There's
For the record,
means long time.
A long time.
I don't understand the short pants record.
Children
Wear short pants.
wear short pants.
Okay, understood.
I feel like if you could describe Johnny, like if you could visualize a person walking into the woods and then grabbing a deer's pair of pants and putting them on, and then you traipse through the woods as a deer, that's what Johnny does.
Yeah.
What was the vision thing? We were
Forward.
Remote viewing.
remote viewing.
viewing.
I think
Yeah.
he can remote view deer.
Could be. If there's a sign, I was actually the other morning the other night I couldn't get to sleep, and I was trying to Google peer-reviewed papers on what's it called?
Remote
It's
viewing.
so dumb and offensive to me that I refuse to ingest the word itself. I think is what's happening. The remote viewing. I'm sorry, it could be right. These things, whenever I speak empirically on something, I'm always afraid it's going to bite me in the butt.
And real quick, remote viewing is essentially that you can just
Project your consciousness into another time and space to answer a question, to do something.
so like someone could say, like if someone got kidnapped, someone could be like, I can put my mind to where that child is and I know where they are.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
A little far fetched.
Yeah, but the other thing is like, well, why aren't you remote viewing the questions and showing up before the questions before they're there? Like, well, let's get efficient. Why do you need to fund this organization? Get the lottery done.
See, wouldn't it be terrible? It'd be terrible if you tried to pitch that to him.
It's hard for me to follow sometimes the things you say.
No, I get it.
I mean, I followed, but it was hard.
Because you have to have a specific thing that you're trying to remote view.
Like the lottery?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I don't think you could just. If you're trying to.
I heard him say that there was a guy whose son was missing, and that he told him to take 2,000 steps past a house
Yeah.
and then wait 5 minutes and scream for the kid.
Yeah.
That is lottery winning odds.
What you're saying about like you could just remote view the question beforehand.
Yeah, or
You're not
the
just-
Super Bowl.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're.
I'm just saying
saying
the problem of funding or needing to work with the government is a non sequitur,
Oh, I gotcha.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And by non sequitur, I mean it's not doesn't fit the framework for what the powers that you purport to have.
Mm-hmm.
We can't start a conversation off of this because it's like saying I have an infinite amount of money. The problem is I can't meet you this weekend because I don't have an airplane. It's like, well, you have an infinite amount of money.
Yeah.
Just buy an airplane. Then you can come and meet me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that would be a non sequitur, a non-starter.
So you're saying Johnny can't remote view deer?
No, I'm not. See, that's the 5%. Because I can't.
Johnny is. The
I've
5%.
seen him. The problem is I've seen him do it. And as the good John, I think it was John Adams who said, there's these pesky facts. And the fact of the matter is, I've watched Johnny remote view deer and been like, oh, they're around that hill there, Bill. Or
the Big Eight.
the Big
Big
Eight.
Eight.
All that
Big
Big
Eight.
Eight.
Big Eight.
I mean, he's one of my favorite people in the world. And,
100%.
such a good guy. You couldn't ask for a better guy. My son's with him this week. He's teaching my son construction.
Oh, nice.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. As good
Well,
as people get.
We what time is it? It's like it's midnight.
We got to wake up in 4 hours
to go turkey hunt. But I do want to end with because we started off kind of talking about technology and like how advanced it's gotten and how that can be bad.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're actually one of the guys that is in this technology world, in this AI-driven world, that is actually creating good from it.
I hope so.
And Cyber Scouts, one of the things that is probably the latest advancement of Spartan Forge that you've created, which how you've created it is mind-blowing. But to me, like, I wish I had a tool like, because I didn't grow up in a hunting family. I didn't have a older brother or dad or mentor or somebody in my life that was like, okay, like, do this, do that. If I had questions, they would answer them. And it's like, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know, it was like maybe some whatever you could find, or you're learning, like you're reading in magazines and stuff.
Yep.
But it's like, this is a tool that whether you're interested in getting into hunting or you've got a lot of experience, like I didn't know the difference in the difference in a Rio versus a Merriam, like what the coloration difference was.
Or their attitudes.
Yeah.
How they act.
And so we asked Cyber Scout, and it like gave a clear answer to the question. And it like, it's a tool that I wish I had when I was younger, where I could get specific with my questions and know that I'm getting good answers.
Yeah.
And so I want you to demonstrate it here and actually read some
Great.
and some of your impersonations, because you've made it extremely personal as well. But how did you create it, first off?
Well, so I should say and be clear about this for people that there are these you can call them neural networks that get made and published, and OpenAI was doing it and they stopped doing it, which is really to the detriment, I think, of the field of artificial intelligence. Elon Musk is doing it. Other people do it. So the really tough work is actually that piece. And then on top of that, you can train and layer and introduce new data, and you enrich data, and you're basically trying to teach it, here are the important things, and this is what you have to focus on, and this is the domain that you're going to be in. Because if you keep it general, you're going to get general answers. So what you do is you kind of put it on a path, and then you retrain it and educate it, and you kind of give it a value hierarchy. So what we've done with ours is made it an expert hunter. Actually, I would say expert outdoors person, outdoorsman. Assigning a sex to an AI is weird. But thanks for laughing at that. But and also fun and engaging. That's another thing we've done with it, is we make it fun, engaging, but it also can scale to your learning ability. So if you know a lot, it can get really in depth. If you don't know anything, it can become really, really simple. But then we also prioritize it and say, you're only going to use peer-reviewed papers. You're going to reference state regulations. You're going to use these draw odds numbers when you're answering questions. You're going to use this data set, this body of knowledge, and you're going to ignore anything that's not been peer-reviewed or that doesn't have this scientific rigor or is a theory that is contentious in this way, shape, or form. Focus on hunting. Focus on firearms. Focus on fishing. Focus on survival. Focus on the founding of our U.S. and what makes us. I had to put that in there. Focus on the founders and those types of things. And then I introduce things like the Federalist Papers. I introduce things like articles that are written by trusted sources. And then I prioritize them, and we enrich the data, and we feed it to the model, and the model gets trained, and you have Cyber Scout. We've been doing this for about 2 years.
How many different like pieces or articles, like
Tens of thousands
of articles you've pulled from to gather this information?
Yeah, and then other people like Kurt does the firearm stuff associated with it. Garrett did some of the primitive archery stuff with it as well as I did. And other people, and then we just examine the answers, and we test it and go along. And if you were to use it and compare it to other AIs, you would see a stark difference. Like Garrett does it all the time. Garrett Prawl. Kurt does it all the time. He'll ask like a general question on a general AI, then he'll use our AI, and the difference is night and day. It's also funny to engage with, and then there'll be other versions that's going to come out soon. It'll be able to interact with the map. I'm going to forget a bunch of things just because I'm getting tired, but soon it'll be able to interact with the map. It has state hunting regulations already in it, which nothing else out there does, and that was a ton. Evan actually did that work. So you say I built, it's we built, Spartan Forge. Evan did the enrichment on the state wildlife regulations. Evan, who beat you today in archery, in case you
Thanks
forgot
for the
what we're
reminder.
talking about. At TAC.
He also beat Levi Morgan.
He
so
also
I
beat
feel
Levi
pretty
Morgan.
Fine.
Yeah. Soon we're going to resurrect Fred Bear and see how that goes. So, all of that goes into it, and then to many other things. And then we test it, and we see if we like the answers and how we want to adjust things or whatever. But the priority with it, like everything else I'm trying to do with Spartan Forge, is to stick to the truth. What is the truth of the matter? What can we observe, demonstrate, and repeat? What can we what is truth? What is the truth? And that's really what I'm trying to build here. And that's Cyber Scout. I mean, that's the best. And you can interact with it. And so the first phase here is what I just talked about. It does those things that we just talked about. The next phase is you're going to be able to interact with it when it comes to draw odds out west. Like right now we visually present that data, but you can interact with it in the chat model like you would interact with somebody who's you're hiring to go out and do all of your, if you're really rich, like, guys got a bunch of money to say, hey, Hunter X, go and do my applications in this area and make sure that you do X, Y, and Z, and I want to hunt here in this species in this time of year. You'll be able to do the same thing with Cyber Scout. So we're really pushing that capability down to the everyday Joe. But you can ask it, like, I think people kind of think about it for a while and they're like, oh, that sounds neat. But then when they actually consider the power of it, like it can help you tune your bow. It can help you make really fine-grained decisions. Or very general ones. It can, I usually shoot, a 430 grain arrow for whitetail with an expandable broadhead, but I want to go do a moose hunt this year in Ontario. How should I change my bow? What should I do to my setup? What should I do with my arrow? How should I change my broadhead? How should I do my fletchings? What spine should I be shooting? It can go through all of that, contextualize it for you, explain it to you, and make it palatable and understandable, because you can tell that, hey, you're kind of going over my head right now. Tell me this. Tell me simpler. And really, my goal in doing this, or the reason why we're doing this, Spartan Forge is doing this, is because the culture is being lost, even though we're trying our best not to lose it. There are a lot of kids that are growing up without their dads, or their dads never hunted, and they see God bless them, a Cam Hanes video, and they want to go and hunt. Like, I said it today to a guy from Hoyt. I said, Cam Hanes is great because he's like a gateway drug. People watch a Cam Hanes video that that never thought about hunting or whatever, and he kind of shows them the culture in a way that makes them want to kind of like get into it. And then they kind of enter through him into the archery world, which is great. It's a great thing. Once they're on the other side of that, Drew, I believe you were with me. You were with me in Las Vegas when we met with Donnie Vincent, right? Mm-hmm. Donnie said the first time he went to go get a bow, he drove around the archery shop for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Was afraid to go inside. Donnie Vincent was afraid to go inside and talk archery at the archery shop. That young Donnie Vincent could have gotten on Cyber Scout and at least known a little bit, answered some things, or maybe would have never had to go in there. Maybe he would have gone in there and said, hey, I need a bow with a 29.5-inch draw. I want this whisker biscuit at that time, or I want, this type of arrow. I want this aluminum shaft, whatever. He would have known the answers of what he wanted because he was able to interact with Cyber Scout, or go in there and say, I want to test these things out, and use Cyber Scout to do that and kind of get that knowledge at that level. And to me, what's really important about that is, you got a young man in a single mom home that watches a Seek 1 video and he wants to go out and kill a whitetail. He can go get some camo from the garage sale or from a flea market. He can go get a bow from anywhere, really. You can go to Walmart. I think everyone's by now. I think I just saw Yappy do a video where he got like a $300 bow or something and killed a doe with it. Wasn't it?
I haven't seen it.
I think so. I think he did that last year or something. But anyway, actually, I'm sure it was him. And so he can save up for a summer mowing lawns. He can get that bow with those arrows. He can get out there in the woods, and he can put 60 pounds of venison in his mother's freezer, who otherwise would have had to work 20 hours to go and do that. And, oh, by the way, he's getting outside. He's pushing himself. He's learning his limits. He's interacting with nature. The moment I get that story, I will almost feel like there's an epic in my life that is closed. Like that some kid on the south side of Chicago, I get chills talking about it right now, but some kid in, urban Indiana, maybe lives in Indianapolis, always wanted to hunt, saw a Seek 1 video, decided to go knock on some doors and do some property annotation of the map, picked up Cyber Scout, went and got a bow, and brought home some meat to a crying mama. I'd be done. I'm good with being done at that point. If the whole thing fails, but that story took place, I'm ready to go.
It's cool to have that deep of a mission behind it.
I mean, I think we all want that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you guys get those, like, it happened
Oh,
to
it's
you
what keep- it keeps
171 times today.
Yeah.
Watched your videos. I want to go out and kill a deer. Right?
That's what keeps the fire burning for
Yeah.
sure.
And that to me is like my highest value is I was that kid. You know, my father, not sob story, but my dad died when I was 5 and grew up in a trailer with a mom that was working her butt off to keep food on the table. And it was a rough place and had Seek 1 been around or Cyber Scout. I always had that inkling to do those things when I was young. I culturally hunted, but I never like got serious into it. If that had been there, I probably would have done it. Or something that showed me how to nap flint or how to bait a hook. You know, this is how you tie this type of knot. This is how you look for smallmouth bass in the Potomac. You know, that's tough information sometimes to get a hold of.
Yeah.
And Cyber Scout right now can answer that. You can answer. I encourage you while we're doing this, one of y'all think of a really complicated fishing question. How do I do X, Y, or Z? Survival question, flint napping. How to brain. So one thing I did for Drew's daughter, a doe I had killed a few years ago, I had brain tanned the hide and made her a gift out of it. A lot of guys might hear that and think, I want to do the same thing. So how do I brain tan a hide? Cyber Scout will walk you right through it step by step.
I've got a fishing question.
Well, we can pop into it here.
So real quick,
Yep.
just the differences between this versus like a search engine. This is making a much more concise answer, and it's
A natural dialogue.
like when I was growing up trying to learn hunting and fishing, I would go on forums and read articles
100
online,
different answers.
on magazines, whatever else, and then like try to digest all that information and pick out the pieces that were worth keeping.
Yep.
Like this does all that for you in an instant.
Yeah, and it does. And the other thing too about it is it will give you a really good answer that's got a lot of knowledge and depth behind it. And if it is the wrong answer for some reason, the second one's probably going to be the right one. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not something where you're going to have to sit here and chase rabbits down trails like you would in a search engine or in a chat room.
Yeah.
Like it's in the top because it's been sampled and oversampled and looked at so many times that it's pretty accurate. So we can start with fishing.
You would ask the fishing question?
Sure.
If it's a sunny day and I'm fishing for bass with a topwater lure, what color should I be throwing?
Do you want to tell me where?
No,
Okay. It's one of those questions where it wouldn't matter.
I don't think it would matter.
Okay.
Do you know the answer, Thomas?
Sunny?
Yeah.
Chrome.
Chrome's what I'm thinking too.
I'd say chrome or
Clear.
clear. Clear's what I was going to say.
Well, we'll see.
If it was
We could be
if it
wrong.
was
Well, the
cloudy-
other thing too is allow it to challenge your presuppositions. If you're an expert in a particular domain, you can use these things like to review code. You can actually have a neural network teach you how to build a neural network, and it will do it. It's pretty cool. It says, listening to a meat eater podcast, this Steve guy is long-winded and keeps talking over the person who knows the answer.
I feel like when you ask this questions, it's like I'm asking you. That it's like
It's kind of funny, yeah. So there's a bit of me in there along with some other stuff that I think is pretty entertaining.
I
Internet's
really,
kind of slow.
yeah, we're kind of dealing with hotel Wi-Fi, but
Well, I'm doing it through my phone actually, and it's only got 2 bars, but we'll get there.
I'm really I want you to grace us with your
Impersonations?
impersonations to kind of end us off. And the one thing I want you to ask it again is what do we ask it when we said do it as Eminem or something? A song about whitetails or something and do it as Eminem.
Oh, yeah. We asked it to
It literally like wrote
To the song "Lose Yourself."
yes, but it was like ingenious the answer like the
like
song that it
poetic.
came up with. It was amazing.
it might have been sitting for too long because I had this dialogue open from the moment that we did it. So I just reset it. I'm going to try this one more time.
Cool.
I think I had opened this at the beginning of our podcast, which was 3 days ago.
About to say, boys, we've been at this a long time.
How long are we at?
We got to be pushing 3.
Probably 3 hours. Yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's
No, y'all, you've done 5 hours before.
yeah. That's
And honestly, like
5.
okay,
yeah.
it just answered. I
Yeah.
refreshed it, and it just answered. So it says, when the glorious sun is hanging high and you're out in the water targeting bass with top water lures, you're in for a blast. Let's dive into strategy. On sunny days, clarity is your ally. So should your choice of lure color. You want to mimic natural prey as closely as possible, pulling those bass right to the surface where the lure is and they can't resist. I recommend going for lures that the colors reflect the natural appearance of local bait fish. Think along the lines of silvers, chromes, and translucent.
There you go. There you go. Translucents and chrome. Freaking nailed it.
Translucent hues. These colors do a fantastic job of blending in while still catching the light in the eye of any nearby bass. Bass have keen eyesight, and on sunny days they will be even more visually alert. A lure that resembles the local buffet, be it shad, minnows, or other bait fish, will be your ticket to success. Not only do these colors shimmer and shine as I recommended above, but they will also provide a realistic silhouette that bass find irresistible.
That's amazing.
There's more below it, but
I was
that's
a
the gist
little
of it.
nervous that he was gonna give an answer where I'm like, but no, it freaking nailed it.
Anybody
That's
else?
amazing.
I'll do the next question. I'll do and say answer like someone that you guys want me to do an impression.
And then you
of.
have to read the impression.
Any questions?
I think Donald Trump is your.
Donald Trump.
That's the best.
That's the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it nails the voice of the words that Donald Trump uses. So, what's our question going to be about, boys? Thomas, ask me a question about photography and wildlife. Like, I want to go and film X, Y, or Z. What type of lens should I use? I want to go and shoot guys holding arrows, one arrow or something like that. Come up with something like we did today or whatever. That would be a question that maybe a new aspiring photographer would ask. Because that's, I think, where this thing really shines. Is that data can be hard to find someone who knows that answer, and it will literally recommend the product, and then it can tell you how to configure it.
Okay. This is a question that I get all the time, but it's what camera should I start with if I would like to get started producing hunting films?
Do you want to give a budget or anything, or no?
Under $4,000. Within, and tell it to me in Donald Trump's voice.
And tell me the answer in the style of Donald Trump.
This is what it said. This is
This is gonna be
it
intriguing.
blows my mind the way that it models the sentence structure.
Yeah.
Like, that's what made the Love Me song last night so impressive, was it was actually like it was written by the same guy.
All right, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh.
If you're looking to dive into the world of producing top-notch hunting films, and I don't mean the crappy ones, I mean the best, believe me, you're going to want to look for something tremendous, absolutely stupendous in camera technology. It's got to be fantastic, really fantastic, especially if your budget is under $4,000, which, by the way, is not much for me. However, listen closely if you want, and if you really want, I think the Sony A7 III, is that 111?
Yeah.
Is the camera, and I mean the camera. Incredible. It's got everything. I don't say it. People say it to me. We're talking high resolution, 24.2 megapixels, so clear, so sharp, you won't believe it. I don't believe it had I not seen it. The picture quality, unbelievable. It's like nothing you've ever seen. And video capabilities, out of this world. 4K video recording. We're living in the future with this kind of thing. I mean it. It's so advanced, ahead of its time. It keeps going.
That's amazing.
It nailed it.
Is it right?
Oh, yeah. That's
A7S3.
that was A7 III.
Yeah. Pretty dang close.
Well, yeah, but
mean,
that one's
under
on
4,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's a little better.
Can you ask it to write a song about a buck in rut based on the song "Lose Yourself" by Eminem.
Is it gonna be PG though?
I can tell it to say keep it
Yeah,
PJ.
keep
It was
PG.
PG when it did it the first time, I think. I don't. feel
No,
like
there was a
it's-
couple parts in there that were a little
yeah,
risque.
he left some out because Linda was there.
I did. Were you reading along?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of parts I skipped right over that. I'm not reading that in front of the lovely lady.
Oh, come on.
It says, sorry,
us the
this is
full
going to take a
version.
while. I'm hungover. Yeah, it's great. I mean,
4,000.
Okay.
Which is not much for
so
me.
it says,
Oh, it actually wrote like a full-fledged song.
yeah, verse 1. How does Lose Yourself go again?
Look, if you had
Yo,
one
it's
shot.
November. Woods awake with a chill. A hunter's dream, quiet, calm, but the thrill. A buck in rut, he's on the move. Sky steel gray. Antlers like crowns. He's in his prime today. Hold on. How's it? I'm trying to think of the
How
tune.
the beat goes.
I think it started in the
chorus.
Yeah.
Chorus. You better track him in the woods. He's a sight. The king of his domain, bathed in soft light. I don't think this is Lose Yourself.
What was the question we asked the first time when it gave that answer?
I'll just say try again. This isn't right.
No, it was like
You mentioned Eminem.
it
though.
was but as Eminem. I don't think you said the song "Lose Yourself," but as Eminem.
I said try again. This isn't right. He said, sorry, dude. I asked a Navy SEAL, and he's writing a book for an answer. I just told it to try again, and it will. It's so good. All right, here we go. Look, yeah, now you got it. If you had one shot or one opportunity to spot the doe of a lifetime, enter territory, would you grab your gear or just let her slip? He's kind of confused. His antlers glisten in the morning light. He's on a trip. This is everything you've ever wanted in one hunting season. But to capture it, you've got to move quiet, move with reason. This ain't just the woods. It's the stage for the rut. He's the show. You better lose yourself in the hunt. Bow in hand, take it slow. Use your own moment. Might never get another go. So track him quietly through the woods. He's the CEO. I can't rap right now, so if I could, it would be a lot better.
That's
We'll do one more in the style of somebody. Who did we do last night? There was someone we were dying at. Who was
Borat?
it? Borat. Oh yeah. So what's the question for Borat?
Do the Arnold Schwarzenegger one.
Arnold.
Yeah, I like Arnold.
All right. So what's for Arnold? What are we asking Arnold? How should I scout Pennsylvania mountain country?
There you go.
But tell me.
Florida. No, do Florida.
Okay, yeah. I suppose I better help those guys out. How should I scout? Here's something cool that is different from other whitetail or from other hunting apps. So I'll show you guys this. How do I scout for whitetail deer? So I'm not going to say anything else other than that. This is kind of again another part that we made sure to include because of all of the different literature on hunting all over the U.S. I think it's important that, it gets exact. So we're going to give it just a second here. It's saying, give me a second there, bro, Jogan. Okay, so it says, it's going to ask me where. So I'm just going to say, all right, I am hunting for whitetail deer bucks in Florida, and I need the answer in the style of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh.
Did that go dead?
Yeah. Which means that one's dead.
Yeah, that's right.
We did it. We killed the cameras. Could people still hear?
Oh yeah.
All right. I didn't know if it routed the audio through there or not. All right, listen up to me, girly man. We're going to dive into the tactics for scouting whitetail bucks in the lush, wild terrains of Florida. And we're going to do it in a worthy way of an action hero. So get ready, because it's time to flex those hunting skills and show the wilderness who's boss. First thing, you've got to understand the terrain. Florida isn't cold like the mountainous dry forests of Germany or the open plains. It's unique with its own challenging swamps and thick underbrush and heat that'll test your mettle. But remember, no matter the obstacle, with the right strategy, you're unstoppable. Now, onto the mission. Scouting for those elusive white-tailed bucks. Here's how you got to do it. It goes into it. It gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things to focus on. But remember, the goal isn't just the hunt. It's to respect the wilderness and the game that you pursue. Be ethical. Be smart. And only take what you need.
Yeah.
It's too much to read. We go forever.
Tip of the cap. That's actually incredible.
What's that?
That you've created that.
Well, no, I didn't. Again, it's built on top of. There's lots of stuff on top of this. Like we're not.
You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Well, what little Easter egg would you like to present to everyone who's made it through all 3+ hours of this podcast?
So, what month is it right now? It is
April.
End of April.
All right. So, if you've made it this far to the end here, go ahead. It's going to take me a while. All right. So I'll get to your messages. Go ahead and DM me, and I'll set you up with a free account of Spartan Forge for 6 months.
DM your personal or DM the Spartan Forge Instagram?
DM the Spartan Forge Instagram.
And you're doing what for them?
I'll set them up for 6 months.
For free.
For free.
Wow.
That's quite the Easter egg there.
Yeah.
We'll see how this goes.
Load them up, boys.
Load me up.
Load them up.
Let's go. It might take me a while. Like, I'm still... It will probably... Look, people, don't get upset if it takes me 2 weeks to get back to you. Maybe 10 days. Maybe less. Maybe it'll only take me a few days. I don't know. But I'm thinking it's going to take me a while. Just with the amount of people.
Okay, the only thing I got to say, though, is if this podcast is on there for...
Okay, yeah, that's
infinity,
a good point.
you need
So
a
today
cutoff
is
date.
April. That's why I asked the date, actually. I was going to say that. What's the date today?
Well, what date's this podcast going to go out? Ballpark.
Couple weeks.
Okay, so needed to...
So by what, May 15th?
And just say end of May.
So I'll stop doing it at the end of May. If you ask me after May, I'm sorry. You should have been listening to these boys quicker.
I would say reference the Sequin podcast. That's what brought you there.
Yeah, just reference. You heard this on the Sequin podcast. You want to try it out for 6 months. There's a bunch of videos on our YouTube. Don't just go in there and just look at the map and think you don't like it. Click the maps button. Look at all the different maps we offer. Look at the LiDAR layer. Get on the web. Use Cyber Scout. Use LiDAR on here. Dual split screen, dual map. Our new bird's eye technology should be out by then too, where you can see imagery from. It tilts the camera, so you're looking at it from the side instead of from directly over top. By then, we should have at least a few years of historical imagery for all of the U.S. There's a lot in here, guys, and I'm giving it away for free like this because I know, and I know that because when people download it and they start using it, they stick with it and they keep it and they like it. So I want to get out of there in front of as many people as possible, and if you use it to take a deer or if you hate it, either way, let me know. I'm always trying to improve, and yeah.
There's a lot of extremely creative things that you're capable of doing that I think a lot of people are not, that will come to this app with time.
I hope so.
I'm excited for what you're going to continue to do with it. But
me too, guys.
I'm super grateful for your time. This has been fun. Get together in Texas for a little bit. Spend time with you. It's always treasured.
Yes, I can't wait. I don't know when we'll see each other again. Maybe September, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But
Probably
before then, maybe.
Before then.
We'll see.
Probably before then at some point. I tried to bait you a little bit into trying to say something a little more, not controversial, but just something about the PA thing. If you can kill a buck in PA, you can do it anywhere. I was trying to bait you to where people would just bombard you with more messages.
It's going to happen. No, it's happening. I already explained myself. It won't matter. It's going to happen more.
Yeah. Well, next time we do this, we'll probably do it in a Chili's.
Sweet.
Is that happening? Is that a deal?
I'm down. I can't wait.
Cool.
Welcome to Chili's.
It's going to be interesting. We'll see how it
I don't
goes.
know what that means.
We got to go turkey hunting early in the morning, so we're going to shut her down. But
thanks, guys.
This was a good one. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
Love you both, all of you. I love you too, Thomas.
I love you too, bud.
All right, guys.
See y'all.